The man, in order to find out how many leg hairs he has, arrived at the haunted hospital carrying 3 grenades. The old man who was a ghost trembled all over when he heard this question. Because if he answers incorrectly, the other party will cut off his head. He could never have imagined that he, who instilled fear in countless people, would become a lamb to be slaughtered in the hands of the man. It turns out that the bizarre world suddenly descended 3 years ago. People were constantly being forcibly pulled into a game world called the Inferno. People must complete various terrifying quests and live stream them globally. Successful individuals receive rewards that continuously make them stronger, while failures have their HP permanently deducted until they die. Top psychologist Evan Zhao was also pulled into the game. He immediately caught everyone's attention when he appeared, because his spiritual power unexpectedly reached 101%. The current top player on the leaderboard, the Emperor of Dragons and Archdemon, is only at 100. Unfortunately, he was randomly teleported to the Giant Elephant Hospital, which has the highest death rate. As soon as he entered the hospital, unknown chaotic codes appeared in the data source. Evan Zhao, who fainted in the operating room, slowly regained consciousness. He got up from the dilapidated iron bed and stretched his muscles. A flicker of deep, barely noticeable crimson light flashed in his eyes. Shortly after, Evan Zhao received some unstable data. The neutral wall cannot be climbed over or destroyed. The neutral door requires an access card, with unknown shadows posing a danger. These data from an unknown source reveal important information. And to get the access card, escaping from the hospital seems to be the ultimate goal. After Evan Zhao confirmed that there was no danger around, he pushed open the door and walked out. The outside lights flickered. The walls were covered with decayed mold. At the entrance of room 409, he heard some movement. He looked through the crack in the door and found an old man lying inside, dying. After the old man saw Evan Zhao approaching, he spoke up and begged, "I need to go to the bathroom. Could you help me sit up, young man?" Evan Zhao did not immediately respond. He carefully examined the old man. Those unstable data emerged again. Gramps Liu is highly dangerous. Unable to move, slow speed, it's a trapping fiend type. Strong combat attributes. But it cannot move and has a narrow attack range. It even has a fatal weakness. Evan Zhao's brain works quickly. Then he takes step by step towards the old man. While the old man on the sickbed has a trace of resentment and coldness in his eyes. There was a lot of discussion in the live broadcast room at this time, mocking that this new player is a tard. But they soon realized something was wrong. Because Evan Zhao not only stopped moving, he also turned around and circled behind the old man. The next second, a sharp surgical knife was pressed against his forehead. Gramps Liu asked him in panic what he was going to do. Evan Zhao looked at him calmly and said, "I will ask you a question. If you answer correctly, I will take you to the restroom. If you answer incorrectly, I will cut off your dog's head." He looked at the surgical knife close at hand. He could only agree helplessly. Because of the setup, he couldn't turn around at all. At this moment, the fearsome also turned into a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Evan Zhao then coldly asked, "How many leg hairs do I have?" The audience was filled with question marks in the barrage upon hearing this sentence. Evan Zhao slowly stabbed when he saw no response from the other party. Gramps Liu, on the other hand, kept begging in terror, "Please don't kill me. Ask me another question." Evan Zhao nodded after a moment of silence and agreed. "Okay, where are the access cards for the hospital?" The old man breathed a sigh of relief and quickly replied, "There are 3 access cards. One is with the hospital director, one is at the administrative services, and one more." Before he could finish his sentence, a sharp blade suddenly cut across his neck. Evan Zhao chuckled playfully. "Sorry for tricking you. I don't actually have that many questions." Ding! Your soul-bound weapon has successfully unlocked Ghost's resentment by touching it. Surgical knife can deal additional damage to Ghost. You have slain Gramps Liu and gained a slight enhancement. At this time, A file bag on the table next to him caught his attention. Just as he picked up the file bag, the system prompt sounded, triggering side quest Gramps Lu's last wish. The old man's body sat up immediately after that. Young man, thank you for setting me free. The document bag in your hand contains a property title. That was my only savings during my lifetime. My daughter Snow Lu wants to have it. She had an affair with the director of the giant elephant hospital in private. They conspired to murder me. But later on, she died due to an unexpected elevator accident. And that was the end of the matter. I beg you to help me kill the director. In exchange, this property title will belong to you. The moment his voice fell, the system sound rang out once again. You have obtained the item, property title, of Gramps Lu Quality Green. At the sight of this scene, the audience in the live stream room boiled with excitement. Damn awesome. This new player actually triggered the side quest of Giant Elephant Hospital. Gramps Lu actually couldn't move. But how did he know? Who said just now that this new player is cerebral palsy? Please stand up. Just as everyone was talking about it, a person with a special frame spoke in the live broadcast room. Although it was a bit of a fluke, his performance was indeed impressive. Mentality, judgment, and reaction are all possible. I'm not trying to flatter him. Is Tao Yang, the vice president of the Alliance Guild, in need of people? Look at me, look at me. I am already level 12. Tao Yang responded that they are not in need of people. He just came to see how the new players are doing this year. Then he watched Evan Zhao's every move and started to analyze. Moments ago, Gramps Lu subtly told Evan Zhao that his daughter died in the elevator shaft, meaning the hospital's elevator cannot be used. In the current situation, Evan Zhao's best response would be to take the stairs to search for the access card. There is a high likelihood of lingering resentment in the elevator, which is very dangerous. Just as I analyzed that, he suddenly froze on the spot. Because Evan Zhao was actually holding the property title. He headed straight for the elevator. Evan Zhao stared at the elevator for a long time. In the end, he chose to press the button. Then a prompt appeared. The elevator is of a low danger level. Inside, there is a restless ghost whose power and resistance have been significantly reduced. However, it still has 5 times the stamina of a human. You cannot fight it barehanded. After seeing the prompt, Evan Zhao smiled. Most likely, the one who died inside is Gramps Lu's daughter. Are her power and resistance severely reduced? Okay. Upon thinking of this, he strode into the elevator in long strides. The audience outside the live studio became nervous as well. It is often said that an elevator is like a moving coffin. In such a dangerous world, entering an elevator is truly unwise. As the elevator descended, the lights began to flicker unnaturally. Evan Zhao kept on scrutinizing his surroundings. Suddenly, a drop of viscous liquid fell on his forehead. Immediately, an arm was placed on his shoulder. Evan Zhao turned his head to look. A blurry face appeared in front of him. But Evan Zhao surprisingly remained calm and composed, contrary to expectations. Even there was a hint of excitement in his expression. You must be Gramps Lu's daughter. Restless Ghost looked at the man in front of him without any fear at all. Snow Lu herself was confused. Realizing this, she asked, I am Snow Lu. Are you here to help me seek revenge? No. Your father has a special gift to give you. He left something specifically for you. It seems to be a property title, and he instructed me to personally deliver it to you. Snow Lu was somewhat incredulous when he heard this. My father left the property title to me. In the end, he actually left it to me. Evan Zhao saw that the other party took the bait and continued to inquire. Why don't you tell me about your situation? Didn't you die in an accident? Why seek revenge? Upon hearing this, the aura around Snow Lu began to fluctuate drastically. Everyone thought it was an accident. It's not an accident. The Dean murdered me. He pushed me off the rooftop, she said, abruptly approaching Evan Zhao. You helped me kill him. Bring back his head. I will give you a handsome reward. After hearing, Evan Zhao's mouth lifted a smile. No system reminder about the side quest also means that the female ghost is deceiving itself. There's probably no reward this time. However, it doesn't matter. With his thoughts here, he scratched his head as if he hadn't noticed. He asked if the dean had any weaknesses. Snowlu continued to answer that he is the strongest ghost here, but can also be said to be the weakest. Unlike other ghosts, he doesn't know he's dead. If you can make him realize he's dead, his fixation will disappear, and his power will disappear along with it. After female ghost finished speaking, Evan Zhao handed the property title and the sphere below to female ghost. I understand. The property title is for you. I'll go figure out a way to help you seek revenge. Snowlu did not doubt. He took what Evan Zhao handed to him without a second thought. Meanwhile, Evan Zhao hummed a tune and quickly left the place. He kept fiddling with the pin of the hand grenade in his hand. After a brief pause, a loud explosion resounded with a bang. The audience in the live broadcast room was once again left in bewilderment. Damn, isn't he a psychologist? Why would he carry a grenade with him? A man carrying 3 grenades rushed into the haunted hospital. The terrifying ghosts inside were as gentle as lambs, which scared him to tremble all over. Because as a psychiatrist, he not only used a surgical knife to eliminate the high-level dangerous Gramps Lu. Even the elevator female ghost with an IQ as high as 250 was also played around in circles by him. After the hand grenade exploded, the female ghost in the elevator was left with only a head. This scene deeply stimulated the audience watching the live stream. Could he be a twisted psychiatrist? Why would he carry a hand grenade with him? Master Tao Yang's eyes lit up, instantly piquing his interest. Exciting! The property title is Female Ghost Fixation. He uses this to attract its attention and make it relax its vigilance. After all, most players, when facing an encounter with ghosts, only think about escaping. It was only a matter of time. He already had the desire to include Evan Zhao in the guild as an exception. On the ground, the splattered head, blown up, became increasingly grotesque. Snowlu stared at Evan Zhao with intense hatred. How dare you plot against me? Evan Zhao did not respond. He grabbed the head of the female ghost and lifted it up. He then suddenly threw it far away. Hey, your head is really bouncy, isn't it? He said disdainfully as he clapped his hands. It's just a little sticky. Evan Zhao took out his rusty surgical knife. Female ghost watched the scene. Great fear appeared in her resentful eyes. Please don't kill me. I beg you. The harsh pleas for mercy echoed continuously in the hallway. Be quiet, my knife is quick and it won't hurt. After Evan Zhao finished speaking, he revealed a manic expression. Then he slowly stabbed the surgical knife into the back of the female ghost's head. Shortly after, the female ghost stopped screaming. This YouTuber thought to himself, what a damn pervert, just like me. Ding. The surgical knife was stained with the ghost's blood. Something was awakened. Your soul-bound weapon evolves, granting enhancements to your attributes. Evan Zhao feels relieved all over after getting rid of the female ghost. After amplification, his strength also increased to 5 points. At this moment, the sound of footsteps came from a distance. Evan Zhao slowly got up and turned around. He was faced with a half-decayed old man. There was a creepy smile on his face. However, when he saw the incredibly frightened female ghost head in Evan Zhao's hand, the smile on his face instantly disappeared. Is there anything I can help you with? Evan Zhao politely asked as he stared at him. Hearing this, the old ghost's hair stood on end. Immediately, he turned around and ran away from there. Oh my goodness! This guy is freaking scary. Oh no, he's scaring the ghost. I need to run faster. Seeing the ghost turn and run away in a sorry state, the live broadcast room instantly exploded with excitement. The number of viewers also soared from the initial 101 people to over 60,000. I'm damn impressed. This new player is really fierce. Actually scared away the ghost. Is he sure he's a psychologist and not psychotic? At this moment, Evan Zhao released the female ghost's head. His strength increased from 2 to 5. He clearly felt a significant boost in strength. Feels great. Absolutely crazy. He then went to the lobby on the first floor of the hospital. After finding the map he needed, he continued to explore. Following the map, he arrived at his next destination, the security room. He had just opened the door to the security room when he found several bodies displayed inside. He needed proof to inform the dean of his death. There were monitors in the security room. Perhaps there would also be a printer. The first thing Evan Zhao did after walking into the security room. The first thing he did was to take out his scalpel and cut off the heads of the bodies on the ground one by one. Then he arranged fresh flowers in a row. His actions made many people feel chills down their spines. This person seems to have some mental illness. Tao Yang can understand this behavior though. Because in the new player's dungeon, the power of some individual ghosts is restricted. When severely restricted, they choose to pretend to be dead to ambush players. Even though Evan Zhao's actions are quite abnormal, he has no worries about repercussions. Upon hearing this, everyone thought it made sense. But is this something that a new player who just entered the game can do? He is actually very calm while washing his hands. After completing everything, Evan Zhao started to come to the table. He logged onto the computer, opened a web page, and searched for a while. Finally, he found some old news about the giant elephant hospital. He took screenshots of some key images and printed them all out on paper. After confirming that everything was correct, he was about to turn around and leave. But suddenly he realized something and turned back. Then he took out a surgical knife. He went on to stab each of the ghost heads on the table. The crowd was stunned and bewildered by the scene unfolding before them. After completing all this, Evan Zhao let out a sigh of relief and muttered to himself, "I knew I forgot something just now. You guys wouldn't have survived otherwise." The twisted psychiatrist who came to the haunted hospital was so frightened by the ghosts inside that he was scared out of his wits. Because of this insane man, not only did he kick the head of the female ghost like a ball, but he also didn't spare the already dead corpse. He only stopped after giving them a few more stabs. After Evan Zhao finished all this, he took a deep breath and walked outside. The corridor at this moment is extremely eerie. In the cold, damp environment, there is a pervasive abnormal black mist. Neutral. It will create fear and reduce the player's ghost points. But it has no effect on you at all. Evan Zhao pondered for a moment after seeing the hint. Then he entered haunted fog without hesitation. The black mist coming towards him obscured his vision. He also heard mysterious whispers in his ears. What value do you have being alive? No one in this world loves you. You will die in this game. These whispers are considered spiritual pollution for most people, but Evan Zhao remains unmoved. Because a long time ago, he could hear countless horrifying whispers every day. From the moment he woke up until the moment he fell asleep, there was never peace. Those voices were far more extreme than the whispers in the current passage. Each one carried a great deal of malice. So for Evan Zhao, being here felt as familiar as returning home. He calmly wandered through the fog and soon reached the end of the corridor. At this moment, some faint crying sounds came over. Ding, subquest triggered. Help the weeping ghost fulfill its wish. Evan Zhao glanced at the hint above and immediately became interested. Then he followed the sound to find the source. The scalpel was also held in his hand. He made his way to room 1007. The sound of crying clearly came from inside. He tried turning the doorknob and found that it was not locked from the inside. Outside the live broadcast room, the audience is now also getting nervous. Ah! I dare not breathe. As long as Evan Zhao opens the door, he will die. In just a few seconds, they felt like they had lived through several years. Just when everyone was fully focused on watching. Evan Zhao, however, released the door handle. He retreated cautiously, his gaze falling on the top of the door. Warning: door extremely dangerous. Can be destroyed. Even though the displayed data is very simple, it is enough for him. He immediately took out his own scalpel and, after gesturing a few times, fiercely stabbed into the wooden door. He stabbed again and again, not knowing how many times he had stabbed. He displayed his speed, accuracy, and ruthlessness to the fullest. In an instant, a chilling and piercing scream echoed from behind the wooden door. Witnessing this scene, the people outside the live broadcast room couldn't help but shiver. Damn, is this new player too aggressive? I'm starting to worry about the Dean. Damn, we should be careful when we meet him in the future. I think he's a madman. A twisted psychiatrist barged into the haunted hospital. The ghosts inside were actually frightened by him. Not only did the ghost, who had harmed countless people, fail to hurt him in the slightest, even the extremely dangerous door-opening ghost was instantly beaten to a pulp by him. After dealing with the door-opening ghost, Evan Zhao stopped his hand. Ding! You have killed the door-opening ghost, and your soul-bound weapon has been enhanced. Hearing the prompt, Evan Zhao glanced at his scalpel, only to find no obvious changes. Apparently, the enhancement was very weak. But even a mosquito is still meat. Some enhancement is better than none. Crimson blood continued to seep out from the door crack. The words, "extremely dangerous," on the data have also been eliminated. Evan Zhao then pushed the door open and walked in with peace of mind. At this moment, inside, the weeping ghost was shivering in the corner, having witnessed everything that had just happened. The weeping ghost status, intermediate danger. Evan Zhao slowly approached, holding a scalpel. The terrified weeping ghost immediately started screaming at the sight. Don't kill me. Invisible sound waves instantly rippled out all around. This is Weeping Ghost's proudest attack technique. Ordinary people hearing this would definitely become mentally disordered. However, for Evan Zhao's Spiritual Power 101, it would not have the slightest impact at all. The crowd outside the live streaming room is very curious about his next move. He's walking over. Will he directly kill Weeping Ghost? It is said that Weeping Ghost has other means of attack. Evan Zhao, who came close, squatted down slowly. He reached out to touch the other person's head. Others didn't expect to see such a heartwarming scene. A person who is usually so decisive actually has a tender side. At this moment, a woman shook the red wine glass in her hand and began to analyze. His general direction is correct. Start by intimidating Ghost, and then comforting them. This way, trust can be established with Ghost, which is important for completing the subquest that follows. Damn, even the Crimson Tassel Goddess has arrived. A group of big men heard the sound and quickly gathered around. The Goddess, can you sign your name for me? Goddess, I'll help you get a wine glass. May I ask if the Crimson Tassel Goddess still needs a spare tire? If not, would you mind having one more? Crimson Tassel saw this and furrowed her brows slightly. She uttered a faint word from her mouth. Climb! The Goddess scolded me. I want to save the recording and listen to it 10,000 times when I go back. Crimson Tassel couldn't be bothered to pay attention to them. She continued to watch with interest. Today, the new player in the Skeleton Zone is really interesting. I just came from the live broadcast of another new player, Little Fatty. That guy completed the Hunter's game in just 46 minutes. He broke the record that no one had surpassed in 3 years. This new player named Evan Zhao is quite impressive. Let's take a look at what this subquest is. The Weeping Ghost seems to have calmed down a lot after being touched at this moment. It spoke hesitantly, asking, Aren't you here to kill me? Evan Zhao didn't answer. He continued to lovingly stroke its hair. This made the Weeping Ghost even more convinced that the other party had no malicious intent. So, it relaxed its guard and revealed its own story. I have been here for so long. Finally, someone has come to help me. Initially, when my mother fell seriously ill, this hospital told me that they could save her. However, they required a large amount of medical expenses. Weeping Ghost is still recounting its story. However, it is unaware that Evan Zhao has already grasped the surgical knife in his hand. His body also adjusted its posture accordingly. This posture is more suitable for exerting force. After preparing, he suddenly swung the knife forward to stab. The deranged psychiatrist got trapped in the haunted hospital. The ghosts inside were actually driven wild by him and fled in terror. Because he not only kicked the head of the female ghost like a ball, even the extremely dangerous door-opening ghost was stabbed into a mess by him. Watching the weeping ghost in front of him has now completely relaxed his guard. Evan Zhao's mouth corners started to slightly curve upwards. Good boy. This posture happens to be suitable for exerting force. He suddenly lifted his own arm as he pondered up to this point. In an instant, he sliced through the opponent's neck like cutting through dead branches. Weeping Ghost stood there motionless, unable to believe what had just happened. With a sound, crimson blood splattered everywhere in an instant. Evan Zhao did not stop his actions. He quickly delivered a few more strikes to the head of the Weeping Ghost until the opponent completely lost breath. Only then did he relax and let out a sigh of relief. The crowd outside the live streaming room was once again shocked by Evan Zhao's actions, shattering their worldview. I'm stunned. Skip the dialogue through physical means. Impressive. But now the crucial information is lost. His sub-quest cannot be completed anymore. Crimson Tassel Goddess analyzed. This guy is completely unpredictable. Evan Zhao doesn't care how others perceive him. Weeping Ghost is extremely dangerous. This means it still possesses some means that pose a significant threat to itself. To ensure safety, it's best to just kill it directly. As for the sub-quest, it is not within his consideration. Upon slaying the Weeping Ghost, the soul-bound weapon gains an enhancement. Evan Zhao immediately began searching the room and obtained the item Weeping Ghost's diary. He flipped through the diary, and the contents emerged. November 12th. Sunny Mom's condition worsened. I am still writing to earn money. I fell asleep while writing due to taking care of Mom at night. Lost perfect attendance this month. I asked the editor for some flexibility. The editor said he couldn't do anything. This weekend I will go out to take on more work again. Hopefully to earn money for Mom's surgery soon. December 12th, I got a job delivering takeout. Although it's a bit hard, there is hope to raise enough money for my mom's surgery. December 17th, it has been raining for more than 10 days. The town is full of water. I slipped while delivering takeout today. Lost today's earnings. February 9th, continuous heavy rain for 3 months. Can't do takeout deliveries anymore. Mother's condition worsened again. What should I do? March 18th, thunderstorm. What happened in the town? How did I suddenly become like this? The streets are so empty. Where did everyone go? Evan Zhao closed the diary. Didn't get any useful information from it. Wait. He suddenly remembered a sentence from the diary. I hope I can raise enough money for my mom's surgery as soon as possible. Mother's surgery. Evan Zhao murmured a few times before turning and leaving the room. The people outside the live broadcast room were puzzled. Why did he go in the other direction again? That way leads to the general ward, not the director's office. What is he doing? Is he exploring the map? Just as everyone was guessing. The senior Tao Yang gave the answer. He is eliminating options. Weeping Ghost mentioned illness and mother multiple times. It is mentioned that sub-quest is related to its mother. So, as long as you find Weeping Ghost's mother, you can continue with sub-quest. The creaking sound came from the damp floor. Evan Zhao stopped as he passed by a ward. Finally found it. The twisted psychologist arrived at the haunted hospital. The ghost inside was actually scared madly and fled at the sight of him. Not only was the extremely dangerous door-opening ghost stabbed to pieces by him, even the innocent-looking Weeping Ghost was played around by him. After he easily took care of the Weeping Ghost with one strike. He then arrived at the entrance of a hospital room based on the map. The door was slowly pushed open. Evan Zhao strode in. This hospital room only has one female ghost, and it's obvious that she is the mother of the Weeping Ghost. Now she has found her target. Next, as long as she interacts with the target, she can extract useful information to continue the sub-quest. As people discussed, Evan Zhao smiled politely and asked, Hello. Are you Shower's mother? Shower is the signature in the diary of the weeping ghost. The female ghost was surrounded by yin energy. She turned her head, revealing a smile tinged with a breath of death, and intermittently spoke a few words. I am Shower's mother. What do you want? Evan Zhao's face lit up with an excited expression upon hearing this. That's great, I finally found you. If I may ask boldly, is your husband or family member currently in the hospital? No, female ghost remained silent for a moment before answering. What exactly do you need me for? As it spoke, its hair began to grow wildly in an eerie manner. The hair seemed to extend towards the door like a ghost, obviously intending to detain the other party. That's good. Evan Zhao felt a lot more relieved after hearing this. This way, I won't have to run around everywhere. It's quite troublesome to run around looking for people. As he spoke, he took out a grenade and threw it directly. Female ghost was stunned on the spot after seeing it. It reacted and wanted to discard it, but it was too late. Evan Zhao waved his hand and quickly walked outside. At the moment he closed the door, a huge fireball erupted. The whole building began to shake uncontrollably. Everyone in the live streaming room looked bewildered. Just now Tao Yang, who had just predicted Evan Zhao's actions, suddenly felt extremely embarrassed. As the smoke slowly dissipated, Evan Zhao pushed open the door and walked in again. The female ghost on the sickbed has been blown to ashes. The surroundings are also in a mess. After seeing this scene, everyone felt a chill down their backs. What's the meaning of this? Shouldn't a normal person try to extract information from the female ghost? Should we continue to complete the subquest? He met her and just handed her a grenade. He even asked if she had any family. Clearly, he was there to wipe out the entire family. Tao Yang once again analyzed Evan Zhao's thoughts. This new player is really scary. His mindset is indeed a bit abnormal. This hospital is so big that the ghosts easily found him. In order to prevent retaliation from the weeping ghost's family, he took the initiative to attack and wipe out the whole family. Is he a psychiatrist or mentally ill? Ah. Finally, I can go to the director's office with peace of mind. Evan Zhao murmured and then turned and walked towards the top of the building. The nearby ghosts all hid, trembling in fear, afraid that Evan Zhao would kick open their doors. After a moment of searching, he arrived outside the director's office. Before entering, he felt a deadly killing aura seeping through the broken glass. Inside, he discovered a body hanging midair swaying. Warning: Director of Giant Elephant Hospital is extremely dangerous. Do not attempt to confront him head-on. Evan Zhao pondered for a while after seeing the data. Then he took out the printed paper. Can't confront him head-on? Then it can only be done this way. The sadistic psychiatrist was trapped in the haunted hospital with Ghost, which frightened him into a cold sweat. After dealing with a series of dangerous evil ghosts, Evan Zhao finally arrived outside the boss director's office. Before entering the room, he already felt a deadly killing aura from the extremely dangerous Giant Elephant Hospital director. Do not attempt to confront him directly. Evan Zhao pondered for a moment after seeing it. Then he took out the previously printed paper from his pocket. Then he took out a pen and circled some of the content with a red box. After he finished all of this, he directly taped it to his face with transparent tape. With a bang, the door was kicked open by him. Evan Zhao just stepped inside. Suddenly, he felt the looming threat of death. The Dean was now growling and turning his head to stare at him. A pair of pale hands instantly grabbed Evan Zhao's neck. He was then lifted high up in the air. This boss's action was too fast. There was simply no chance to resist at all. The Dean's mouth split all the way to his ears. His gaping maw was ready to swallow the opponent whole. And at this moment, it's also inevitable. It saw the paper on Evan Zhao's face. On it, there are several words and images deliberately outlined. On March 6th, the Giant Elephant Hospital was invaded by unknown ominous. All personnel were killed, with no survivors. After seeing these, the director seemed to remember something. The hand gripping Evan Zhao's neck is also rapidly losing strength. I'm dead. I'm dead? Impossible. The Dean muttered, gradually going insane. At this moment, Evan Zhao took out his soul-bound weapon scalpel. With the speed of lightning, he made the fastest slash of his life. He directly stabbed the Dean in the center of his brow. Evan Zhao, who completed all this, awkwardly fell back to the ground. Ding, you have killed the dungeon boss. The soul-bound weapon has been enhanced. The attributes have received a slight increase. After the increase, his strength has also changed from 5 to 8. At this moment, the crowd outside the live stream room all admire him greatly. Wow, so this is how the printed paper is used. Why did he kill the boss so easily? Item: Bloodstained Scalpel. Introduction: Your soul-bound weapon. Because it has absorbed the resentment from the fierce ghost. The surgical knife now has a faint chaos damage. Chaos damage ignores resistance, evasion, and damage reduction. The scalpel will inflict full damage on all units without exception. Is chaos damage some kind of advanced attribute? Evan Zhao quietly remembered this special attribute. He then looked at the Dean, who was still swaying left and right in front of him. He directly pulled out the scalpel from the other's forehead. After getting rid of the Dean, he started searching in the office. Judging from the diary of Weeping Ghost, this town has experienced an invasion of mysterious forces in the past. The Dean is such an important boss. There must be some special information. The bizarre doctor came to the haunted hospital, and was so scared by the ghost inside that he fled madly. Not only did he play the extremely dangerous Weeping Ghost around in circles, even the extremely terrifying principal was poked to the point of disarray by him. After taking care of the boss principal, Evan Zhao started searching in the office. He found the records in the Weeping Ghost diary, sparking some interest in this world for him. Giant Elephant Hospital and the small town have clearly been invaded by some mysterious force. It's hard to say how they ended up like this. From now on, he will no longer enter this dungeon. So now there is a chance. He still wants to explore and understand first. In the drawer, he found an access card and a letter. He took out the access card and placed it in his own pocket. Then he opened the letter and began to read it. The handwriting on the letter was sloppy. The tone also conveyed a sense of urgency. Old Chun, I have contacted the authorities. I have arranged for the guards in the town to be on your side. Suspended Valley Town is no longer safe. Pack up your things sooner, within the next 2 or 3 days. Head to the station on the south side of town. There will be a black truck waiting for you. Don't delay, danger may arise. After reading the letter, Evan Zhao couldn't help but furrow his eyebrows. He neatly folded the letter and placed it back in the drawer. The letter was sent from outside. There was no signature on the letter. The other party clearly knew what had happened in Suspended Valley Town. However, things still caught him off guard. The director named Old Chen eventually died in the hospital. After another fruitless search, Evan Zhao turned around and left the place. He soon arrived at the entrance of the hospital. At this moment, flocks of crows were circling above in the sky. Shadows were roaming everywhere, making it difficult to see the bodies and faces clearly. He cautiously made his way through the shadows and reached the outer fence. Suddenly, a distorted and eerie figure appeared in front of him. The figure stood motionless with its back facing him. At the same time, a set of data appeared before Evan Zhao's eyes. After seeing the data prompt, he broke out in a cold sweat instantly. Name unknown. Extremely dangerous. Do not let him out of your sight. Otherwise, terrible things will happen. Both the data in front of you and your body's instinct tell you. This thing. Not something your current self can combat. Is there still a hidden boss? Evan Zhao cautiously took out his scalpel. He carefully moved his hands and feet, afraid of disturbing the other party. He stared firmly at the twisted figure, not daring to relax for a moment. After circling around the figure, he successfully swiped the access card. With a drip sound, the rusty iron door emitted a piercing friction sound, like a machine that hadn't been operated for centuries. Evan Zhao slowly backed away from the figure and stood outside the iron gate. The thick fog outside obscured everything from view. Obviously, this novice dungeon did not want to reveal more information. After gently closing the iron gate, Evan Zhao gradually retreated into the fog. Ding! Dungeon cleared successfully. Now beginning teleportation. With the sound of the prompt, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Immediately after, the thick fog completely obscured Evan Zhao's body, and he disappeared into the fog as well. After Evan Zhao left, the twisted figure finally showed some movement. His body, originally puppet-like, suddenly picked up its head and coldly stared in the direction where Evan Zhao had disappeared. The twisted man then arrived at the haunted hospital. The ghosts inside were so frightened by him that they frantically fled. After going through a series of events and dealing with the dean, he finally completed the dungeon and was teleported out. Congratulations to player Evan Zhao. The main quest escape from the giant elephant hospital is completed. Side quest Gramps Lu's last wish completed. Subquest Weeping Ghost's wish failed. Plot exploration rate 88. Worldview exploration rate 6 receives a score of S+. Rewards obtained: 25 XP, item obtained, Gramps Lu's property title obtained, Ghosts fear him. As the prompt sounds kept coming one after another, the crowd outside the live broadcast room instantly became restless. No one expected a new player to achieve an S+ score at the giant elephant hospital in Inferno difficulty. Evan Zhao's face remained calm as usual. After receiving the reward, his level also reached level 2. And he obtained property title from Gramps Lu. At this point, he returned to the safe zone, known as Eternal Night Camp. It is not a real geographical location in the traditional sense. It is a virtual platform. Here, people can watch players' live streams, trade items with each other, and communicate about dungeon experiences, challenges, and strategies. Evan Zhao just opened his profile, and two options popped up on the screen. 1. Please select the guild you would like to join. 2. Do you want to create a guild on your own? He is not in a hurry to make a decision. He wants to understand the basic situation first before deciding. His friend's application for prompts is already full. Many people inside have noble golden names. The players next to him suddenly took a cold breath when they saw this. I'm going. Dude, what kind of god are you? So many top guilds are inviting you to join. After seeing Evan Zhao's bewildered look, he started to explain. It's really unprecedented for those top guilds to invite a new player like you. It's almost unheard of. People can have access to various abundant resources as long as they join a large guild. People can also use these resources to quickly complete major world quests. It also greatly improves people's survival rate in this game. Evan Zhao shook his hand after listening, indicating that he was temporarily not interested in these. He then opened the shopping mall and started observing. There were many items on it. Not only various ghost-subduing artifacts. There are also mysterious potions to enhance oneself. Each item has the required points for purchase marked below it. The way to obtain points is by defeating dungeons. Evan Zhao then opened the leaderboard. There are 5 in total. They are new player, guild, leveling up, wealthiest, and renowned. Currently, he is ranked first on the new player leaderboard thanks to his S+ rating. He also took a look at other leaderboards. After he understood the general situation, Evan Zhao then queried the guild. After entering the game, players will be unable to return to their original world. Players are instead assigned to a new corner of the chaotic world. It is dangerous, barren, and desolate there. Players must deal with various dangers, stock up on resources, and head towards the center of the world. The best way for players to survive is to join a guild and act together with your teammates. After reading it, he carefully consulted the current world map that had already been explored. He found that the location of the Slackers Guild was closest to a familiar area, the small town mentioned in the letter from the dean of the Giant Elephant Hospital in Suspended Valley Town. Evan Zhao's interest was piqued at the sight of this. After the bizarre world arrived, the man won the first place on the new player list out of millions of people. But to the admiration of the public, he actually rejected the invitation from the top guild. He instead chose a trashy guild full of losers. Shortly after Evan Zhao clicked apply, the other party replied, "We are a trash guild. We don't have many resources." Evan Zhao's mouth curved into a faint smile after reading it. He himself doesn't really care about these things. He is just very interested in Suspended Valley Town. At the same time, in a remote corner of the world map, inside a dilapidated apartment building, a woman with a graceful posture is staring at the information in front of her. It's really interesting. This year's new player list top actually determined to join our guild. As the words fell, a middle-aged man in a Taoist robe walked over. Blessings from the infinite celestial lord. This guy, hasn't he received invitations from several top-tier guilds? This year's new players are just too incompetent. They can't impress those old ghosts at all. The woman lazily lifted her hair and spoke. What do you think of a new player who achieved an S+ rating in a dungeon with a difficulty level like the Giant Elephant Hospital? A hint of surprise flashed in the eyes of the old Taoist upon hearing this. Why did he choose our guild then? The woman went on to recount Evan Zhao's response. He said he is very interested in Suspended Valley Town. Uncle Chain, please give some advice. Upon hearing this, the middle-aged man called Uncle Chain closed the book in his hands. Suspended Valley Town seems to be related to our world quest. You guys never do world quests every day. You guys only know how to fight. It's been so long, and the guild is still in this mess. New players are almost gone. The woman chuckled after hearing that. Aren't we learning from you? As the leader, if you set a bad example, others will follow suit. Don't shift the blame onto us. Uncle Chain felt a bit embarrassed upon hearing that. Let him in. It's rare to have a new player interested in joining our guild. Remember, absolutely do not bully the new player. The woman licked her lips, and a glint appeared in her eyes as she responded. Okay. When the system prompt popped up, everyone was confused. They couldn't understand Evan Zhao's choice. Why did he have to go to such a trashy guild instead of anywhere else with a good hand? It's a pity for this guy. I heard that the big brothers of the previous big guilds are very appreciative of him. I didn't expect him to act like this. At this moment, in the abandoned city of the chaotic streets, inside a luxurious building, Tao Yang is carefully examining Evan Zhao's information. It's really unusual for a new player like him to join a guild filled with all amateurs. Just as he was pondering, a woman dressed in professional attire knocked on the door and walked in. She is the vice president. Someone has dug up information about Evan Zhao's previous world. The data has been uploaded to Eternal Night Camp. Here is the original file for your review. Tao Yang quickly browsed through the information. Then he asked in confusion, "Is he very famous in the industry?" The woman replied, "Yes, he has cured nearly 1,000 patients with severe mental illnesses. And these patients are completely cured. There are no residual effects. Whether the person has depression or violent tendencies, severe psychological distortions, as long as they go through his hands, they always recover. However, strangely enough, the patients who were healed by him all forgot the process of treatment. Any records related to the treatment mysteriously disappeared. So within the industry, no one generally calls him by his real name. Instead, they have given him a special nickname, Angel of Oblivion." After the bizarre world arrives, the man fought his way to the top of the new player list among millions of people. But he, who had attracted the attention of millions, declined an invitation from a top guild. Instead, he chose a garbage guild full of amateurs. The guild full of amateurs is located in a remote corner of the world map. It is also the poorest, coldest, and most dangerous place. Evan Zhao just arrived here and saw a sexy beauty standing at the door. "Is this the territory of Slackers Guild?" Evan Zhao curiously asked. The woman took off her sunglasses after hearing that. What? Don't we look like slackers? I haven't told you yet. My name is Rachel Liu. I am an auditor for Guild. You can call me Sister Liu. Rachel Liu said as she turned and walked towards the building. I'll take you to meet some of the other misfits from the Guild. After hearing that, Evan Zhao responded with a sound and followed behind. When Rachel Liu pushed open the creaky old door, all eyes in the hall turned towards them. Many people had strange smiles on their faces. Rachel Liu paused, then began to introduce them. The man with black-framed glasses is our guild leader, Uncle Chain. You can call him Uncle Chain. The cold beauty is Jasmine Ming, our vice president. Try not to chat with her. She won't pay attention to you. And that darn fraudulent Taoist is Hawk Jiang, who loves deceit and scams the most. Be very careful not to be deceived by him. Upon hearing this, Hawk Jiang immediately started to explain with black lines all over his head, saying, Rachel Liu, I am well-versed in astronomy and geography, never overcharging for fortune-telling and divination. How did I become a fraudulent Taoist? He said, as he squeezed next to Evan Zhao. Come, I have arranged a room for you. We usually stay on the top floor of the 7th floor. New player lives on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd floors. Your room number is 404. I applied for it specifically for you. It's very lucky. Evan Zhao quickly nodded in thanks after hearing this. Hawk Jiang chuckled and said, No worries. Once you're here, we're all family. Being able to stand out among millions as a new player, we have high hopes for you. Rachel Liu, seeing this, shook her head, suggesting not to take advantage of him. I took him to the dorm. Then she took the initiative to walk up the stairs. Soon we arrived at the door of room 404. After you are bound to the room, this room will be your safe room. Except for your orders, no one else can enter. Rachel Liu finished speaking and asked Evan Zhao to stand at the door. At this time, a blue light shot out from the peephole. Ding. Soul information collected successfully. Then the door opened slowly. The scene inside was also fully visible. Very clean and tidy, with a separate bathroom. Hot water is available 24 hours a day. But for food and water, you need to go to the abandoned train station 2 kilometers away to scavenge for supplies. Rachel Liu's eyes lit up at the mention of this. You need at least level 3 to enter there. Your level is not enough. Sister Liu can provide some for you. Evan Zhao nodded quickly and thanked Sister Liu. You're welcome. Rachel Liu waved her hand and turned to leave. Come to the living room tomorrow night. I just entered the new player group with you. Briefly described the gameplay process of the Inferno. Oh, she suddenly remembered something. She then added, Place is outside the apartment. Do not explore for now. It's not safe. With that, she twisted her waist and walked out. Meanwhile, in the Alliance's guild, Tao Yang remained silent for a long time after receiving Evan Zhao's information. Then he arranged for a woman to call Human Demon Ball. Upon hearing this, the woman seemed hesitant. Vice President Ball is in the last dungeon. He killed all the other players. Now the killing point is too high. He will be locked in the killing field and can come out after 3 days. Tao Yang glanced at the calendar beside him. I still have time. I can wait a little longer. The man was forcibly pulled into a strange world. And he excellently completed the quest, ranking first on the new player leaderboard among tens of millions of people. But to everyone's surprise, he chose a guild full of noobs. He rested for a night after arriving at the guild. The next day, all newly joined new players were summoned to the hall. Evan Zhao also came here in a nightgown. After scanning the room, Uncle Chain began to introduce himself. Now that everyone is here, let me say a few words. I am the president of the Slackers Guild. You can call me Uncle Chain. The world we are currently in is a world of chaotic laws, known as the disorderly realm. It's very dangerous here. Only our guild building is absolutely safe. So, don't wander around if there's nothing to do. As a player of the Inferno game, there are 2 quests that need to be completed. One is the dungeon quest, and the other is the larger world quest. The dungeon quest must be completed once every month, and can be done a maximum of 2 times. And it's worth mentioning that you are likely to be matched with other players in the same dungeon. PvP is common in such situations, so don't trust anyone easily. Additionally, once you enter the dungeon, Eternal Night Camp will have a live stream room for you. Try to perform excellently as much as possible. Attract more viewers to become your fans. At the end of the live stream, popularity and gifts will be converted into extra points for you. Although not a lot, they can help attract the attention of some big guilds. It will also make it easier to switch jobs in the future. Everyone was a bit puzzled when they heard this. How could it make it easier to switch jobs? They all said it seems like he doesn't care at all whether the new players in the guild stay or leave. Uncle Chain paused for a moment and continued. As for world quests, it's even simpler. Your system will display them. If you're interested, just follow along. If you're not interested or afraid, then don't do them. The guild doesn't force anyone. Do you have any more questions now? As soon as the words fell, many new players eagerly raised their hands, wanting to ask questions. Uncle Chain was somewhat speechless at the scene. He adjusted his glasses and stood up directly, leaving the place. Since everyone is fine, let's adjourn the meeting. The few people still with their hands up suddenly looked bewildered on the spot. Oh my gosh, is this guild leader so irresponsible? I feel like I've been taken advantage of. Don't blame others if you choose to join a slack guild yourself. Oh! I fucking applied for this guild after checking the list. Evan Zhao sat alone on the sofa, lost in thought. Actually, everything about the game can be found in the system. Whether they explain it or not doesn't make much of a difference. What left him speechless was that the players in this guild were too casual. They didn't even bother to act. They've never even attempted the world quests. This guild has been established for 2 years, and is still stuck on the tutorial quest. But this actually works fine. They can experience the storyline progression from the beginning on their own. Read carefully. What exactly happened in Suspended Valley Town back then? Then Evan Zhao opened the world quest. The first thing that caught his eye was the tutorial quest objective to collect food and water at the train station. Recommended level 1 to 3. Quest reward 2 skill points. Brief introduction. You suddenly wake up, finding yourself in the terrifying Eternal Night Lands, and your goal is to escape from this place. But before that, you need to figure out how to survive. Attached is a map. Evan Zhao glanced at the map and found that the apartment was only 2 kilometers away from the abandoned train station. Although the distance is not long, 80% of the station is in shadow. This indicates that these areas are not related to the quest, and the potential dangers that may arise could exceed level 1 to 3. Then I can't go on an adventure now. Anyway, there's plenty of food in the guild's warehouse. 7B can't finish it for now. The most important thing now is to quickly improve my level and points, then go to the mall to exchange for the necessary items. With that in mind, he clicked on the dungeon match on the system panel. Ding. You have successfully matched. Dungeon. Cursed School of Horror. Player Evan Zhao participates. The main quest is to survive for 7 days in Stonehill High School. Main quest reward 75 XP. Subquest reward Sacrificial Doll. Difficulty The Inferno. You have successfully enrolled in the top-notch school Stonehill High School. However, after living in the school for a while, you suddenly realize that something is not quite right with this school. Then, a white light flashes. In a classroom at Stonehill High School, a girl slowly opened her eyes. After entering this dungeon, the popularity in the live stream quickly reached over 1,000 viewers. So beautiful. A beautiful woman's popularity is always high. Although she has only gone through the dungeon 4 times, I have witnessed her growth. In the future, she will be my goddess. At first, she was just a spoiled rich girl, but now she knows how to use her intellect. After Linnea Yang opened the system interface, her face turned instantly pale. Why am I so unlucky in Inferno difficulty? This is only the 4th time in the dungeon, and I encountered Inferno difficulty. The last dungeon was on normal difficulty, and almost tortured me to death. What should I do with this Inferno difficulty this time? The more she thinks about it, the more she gets a headache. Before, in the dungeon with a total of 25 HP, she died 3 times and lost 15 points. Now she only has 10 points left. If she dies again, she will only have 5 points left. The pressure will be too much for me the next time I enter the dungeon. After all, once a person's HP is reduced to 0 in the dungeon, people will die completely. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but start feeling scared. By the way, there are still teammates. She suddenly stood up and scanned the whole scene. Look at my teammates. Maybe one of them is more powerful. But she was extremely disappointed after a moment. Only saw in the crowd 3 people's heads displayed annotation. But these 3 are even lower level than hers. Linnea Yang weakly slumped back into the chair. Finished, these 3 are the newest of the newbies. There's simply no hope. Are we really going to fail today? Especially that Evan Zhao who keeps looking around. Forget it, we still have to rely on ourselves. Look at the time, it's now the lunch break. If everything goes smoothly, there are 10 minutes left until the first class in the afternoon. Take advantage of this time. I exchanged information with them. So Linnea Yang started to act. She called the 3 of them to the playground. As she had the highest rank, she naturally became the team leader. Listening to what we are facing now, unprecedented difficulties and dangers. In the next 7 days, we must work hard to unite and cooperate in order to have a chance to survive. Do you have any thoughts on this dungeon? Upon hearing this, Toby and Liam shook their heads helplessly. Just started the game, and have no information at all. What thoughts could we possibly have? We are completely clueless. After scanning the nearby classrooms, Evan Zhao noticed something unusual. The classrooms on the first floor were not fully occupied. Each classroom had around 46 seats, but the number of people inside did not exceed 23. A very interesting phenomenon. But what does it imply? For rookies are trapped in the ghost school and Inferno difficulty. They not only need to break the curse, but also get the sacrificial doll. They also have to do whatever it takes to survive here for 7 days. But this is obvious. It's not something that they, who are not newcomers, can handle. The highest-ranking Linnea Yang anxiously pulled 3 people to discuss countermeasures. Toby and Liam helplessly shrugged their shoulders. Linnea Yang then turned to the vigilant Evan Zhao and asked him if he had any opinions. The name Evan Zhao seems familiar. Toby couldn't help but murmur. Then he suddenly picked up his head, as if he had thought of something. Are you the one? Are you the one who achieved an S+ ranking in the Giant Elephant Hospital on Inferno difficulty, and made it to the top of the new player leaderboard? The other 2 were stunned on the spot upon hearing that. Topping the new player leaderboard. Awesome. He is a thigh who stands out among millions. Evan Zhao looked as 3 people stared at him with fiery eyes. Evan Zhao then asked them a question. Do you still remember where your seats are? Linnea Yang excitedly responded that she remembered. What's going on? The other party is her lifesaver. Evan Zhao did not respond. Instead, he turned his head and looked towards the empty classroom. It's time for class. Let's go back. If nothing unexpected happens, there should be quite a few deaths in our classroom today. Remember, you must sit in your own seat. Do not sit in the wrong one. Upon hearing this, the 3 of them were somewhat horrified for a moment. Linnea Yang noticed that Toby's complexion was very poor. She asked what is wrong. Toby spoke intermittently. I seem to have forgotten where my seat is. Is this very important, Boss Zhao? Evan Zhao turned to look at him after hearing that. I'm not sure if there is danger in other positions, but our starting point is definitely safe in a short time. If you really can't remember, you can think back to the reference point you remember. At this point, a large number of viewers have flooded into the live stream room. He is truly the top player. And it's Evan Zhao from Dungeon Inferno difficulty. He's really unlucky. It's a pity that he left the new player recommended platform. Big brother Evan Zhao's popularity has plummeted. Forget it. How many new players entering the game have this kind of popularity? 300 viewers are a lot, okay? This time, there's no system help to weaken the ghost's power. Hee. This time I want to see how he dies. The bell for class rang. Let's go back. After speaking, the few people immediately rushed back to the classroom. Stand up, following the order of a male student. Everyone stood up in unison, ready to welcome the arrival of the teacher. Evan Zhao glanced around at the people nearby. In an instant, his pupils reflected crimson data once again. To his surprise, the entire classroom was filled with ghosts, except for his teammates. Fortunately, the displayed entities are all neutral units. They won't randomly attack others. After a moment, the door was pushed open. A woman in professional attire walked in. Today we will have a math exam. As her words fell, the ghosts around shuddered in fear. Ding, female teacher triggers neutral. Before triggering her hunting condition, the unit remains in a neutral state at all times. After triggering the hunting condition, the unit's power will skyrocket. She will recover after killing the target. Evan Zhao couldn't help but frown at this. Triggered by neutral. Is this trigger point related to the test paper in her hand? Or is it related to their seating arrangement? Or perhaps both are related. A man was forcibly dragged into the terrifying ghost school. Besides him and 3 teammates, the rest of the students are ghosts, and they must find a way to survive for 7 days here. With the terrifying entrance of the female teacher, the atmosphere instantly became extremely oppressive. Now the test papers are being distributed. As she finished speaking, her gaze coldly swept across the crowd. The exam lasts for 50 minutes. No walking around or making noise during the period. After she finished speaking this sentence, Evan Zhao clearly noticed that the chubby ghost in the front row was shaking incessantly. But what exactly was he afraid of? The female teacher then started to distribute the exam papers, starting from the first row to the last. Even if there were empty seats with no one, she would still place a paper on them. Evan Zhao glanced at a seat near to him. He found that there were no words on the test paper at all, while simple exam questions appeared on someone else's test paper. He looked at the questions above, and Evan Zhao couldn't help feeling a little headache. I totally don't understand. That's the only way to go. He then quickly wrote down his name and student ID. I'll leave the rest of the choices to fate. Exam discipline is lax, and many people are looking around furtively. There are even some who directly ask their neighbors for answers. What should I choose for the third question? Are your questions the same as mine? And the female teacher doesn't seem to care about these. She has been carefully checking the students in the classroom from the podium. Evan Zhao's brow furrowed when he saw the chaotic scene. The invigilating teacher didn't even bother to intervene. Are the trigger conditions and exam discipline irrelevant? But the student in front seems to be trembling even more. At this moment, Linnea Yang turned to look at him. When she learned that Evan Zhao is currently ranked first on the new player leaderboard, she pinned her hopes of survival on him. Because it's impossible to climb to the top among tens of millions based solely on luck. He must have extraordinary skills. Let's see what he is up to. Can't be true. He can't even solve such a simple question. Does he still need to rely on tossing an eraser to make decisions? Linnea Yang saw this and started to feel uneasy again. Suddenly, the voice of the female teacher came from the podium. Don't look around randomly. As the voice fell, a moment of bone-chilling coldness filled every corner. All the students dared not make any more movements. Evan Zhao also counted his fingers seriously and calculated the questions. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. 3 times 7 is 21. 4 times 6 is 24. Soon, he finished all the questions on the paper. At this moment, female teacher also began her exam invigilation patrol. A blood-stained axe was slowly drawn out. Her face also began to become hideously torn apart. Extremely terrifying. Haha, let me see which student will be punished. The man was forcibly dragged into the terrifying ghost school. Here, other than 3 companions, everyone else is a ghost. Even scarier is the female teacher in the classroom. She was invigilating with an axe smeared with crimson blood. Let me see which student will be punished. After female teacher spoke, she started patrolling with the axe in hand. She stopped in her tracks when passing by Toby. Toby was so scared that his hair stood on end, trembling all over and not daring to breathe. At this moment, his heart was pounding like a galloping herd of horses. The shadow of the axe happened to be cast on the exam paper. Toby rubbed the pen in his hand vigorously. His whole body was in a tense state. His heart was now in his throat. He didn't dare look back, let alone make a sound. Could it be that I'm sitting in the wrong place? No, it shouldn't be. Oh, I didn't remember the stationery on this table wrongly. I beg you not to kill me. He was devastated. He was terrified, as if his soul had left his body. Spiritual power was falling at a rate of 3 points per second. The crowd outside the live broadcast room all understood the situation. This kid is finished. If spirit points keep falling, he probably won't make it through the first day. Lene Yang is afraid. Spiritual power keeps dropping. Some admirers are starting to worry as well. On the other hand, Evan Zhao is completely different. He doesn't seem to be affected at all. Damn, is he a fiend? His spiritual power is as stable as an old dog at 101. I admire his mental toughness. However, I just looked at his test paper. He didn't get a single question right. Toby's spiritual power keeps dropping. It quickly fell below 50. He is now in a semi-comatose state. And at this moment, the female teacher suddenly left his side. Toby finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw this, slumping onto the table. Female teacher then came up behind Evan Zhao. A strong sense of pressure followed. Evan Zhao seemed to sense intense hostility. He raised his head, showing a harmless smile, as he looked at female teacher. Special prompt: female teacher has triggered neutral stance. I have caused such chaos, yet she remains neutral. It seems she is disrupting exam discipline. Indeed, it's inappropriate to trigger her to kill. So even if she really wants to kill someone, as long as the trigger conditions are not met, she won't act. Evan Zhao suddenly realized a few things at this point. From a certain perspective, female teacher is the safest ghost in this classroom. But being safe now doesn't necessarily mean being safe in the future. Evan Zhao hesitated and reached for the scalpel in his pocket. He is currently not sure if he can kill this female ghost. What are you looking at me for? Hurry up and do your exam now. The female ghost is staring at Evan Zhao with an axe in her hand. Evan Zhao thought for a while, and decided to hold back for now. What are you looking at? Is there something on my face? The female teacher asked as she approached. Her terrifying mouth split all the way to her ears while speaking, with a tongue dripping with foul-smelling saliva, suddenly extending a long section. Evan Zhao couldn't help but furrow his brows at the sight. However, he quickly regained his usual demeanor. I just think you look pretty, teacher. Just now, I saw a female ghost that had fallen to its death, with its face all rotten. It left a great trauma on my young heart. Upon hearing the compliment about her appearance, the female teacher's looks quickly returned to their peak. And she revealed a surprised and shy expression. Is the teacher really good-looking? No. It's exam time now. Stop beating around the bush with me. Do the questions quickly. With that, she raised her pale and cold hand, pressed it on Evan Zhao's head. At this moment, the chubby ghost in the front seat was shaking like a sieve. He kept repeating, "Don't kill me!" He had been suppressing his fear from the beginning. This scene immediately caught the female teacher's attention. She instantly stretched her neck closer, her eyes narrowed coldly, staring at the other person. The man is trapped in the terrifying ghost school. Inside, apart from 3 companions, everyone else is a ghost. The scariest part is the female teacher invigilating the classroom. At the slightest provocation, she will raise the axe in her hand and start attacking people. When Evan Zhao was forced to solve problems by her, a chubby ghost ahead suddenly trembled with fear. The female teacher instantly stretched her neck and stared at him intently, while also raising the axe in her hand high up for the first time. The chubby ghost was instantly terrified, and its whole body bristled up. He immediately knelt down on the ground and begged for mercy with a thud. "Teacher, please give me another chance. I beg you." He hugged female teacher's leg, crying bitterly. I promise I won't make the same mistake again next time." Before he could finish his sentence, female teacher had already swung the axe down. With a splatter, the bright red blood sprayed everywhere. A round and rolling head. It fell right at Evan Zhao's feet. Evan Zhao was slightly stunned for a few seconds upon seeing this scene. Then he slowly extended his leg. With a bang, he kicked the head directly out. The next second, the head happened to roll onto Toby's desk. Under the four eyes meeting, Toby was instantly scared to the brink of a urinary leak. Still not recovered from the fear of the female teacher, he rolled his eyes and immediately foamed at the mouth, fainting on the table. The audience outside the live broadcast room laughed like crazy. Can a normal person do such a thing? Everyone, be it a ghost, is showing off. Fortunately, he fainted. Otherwise, if the spirit value continues to decline, he might not even have a chance to die. He would directly become a dungeon fiend. At this moment, after dealing with the fat ghost, the female teacher turned around. She stared coldly at Evan Zhao. Evan Zhao did not hesitate. He immediately stood up and handed the exam paper to her. The female teacher then took the paper. Then she waved her arm to signal him to leave. "Get out. Don't disturb the exam discipline. I will cancel your exam qualification." Evan Zhao chuckled hastily upon hearing this. "All right," he responded. Lene Yang looked at his departing figure with great confusion. Is he leaving just like that? After he walked out of the classroom, Evan Zhao's smile on his face also disappeared instantly. I probably understand some of it. The exam ended 40 minutes later. Several people also gathered together. Lene Yang felt helpless. How can we play the Inferno difficulty mode so recklessly? Liam Bai also agreed. Yeah, buddy. Your actions just now were too dangerous. You almost scared Toby to death. Evan Zhao laughed and explained. I was just testing that teacher. The fact proves that as long as we don't trigger the death point, the tolerance of this female ghost towards us is very broad. The point of death. This sentence immediately caught the attention of the three people. Big brother, please explain in detail. Evan Zhao then looked around. After confirming that there was no one around, he then whispered his analysis. Have you noticed that the female ghost has rules when it comes to killing people? Several people heard this and were puzzled about what rules. Isn't it just randomly picking a lucky person to behead? Seeing their confused look, Evan Zhao waved his hand and asked me to go to the playground. The view there is wide. During noon break, I observed a total of 8 classes. By carefully looking, one can discover that the number of students in each classroom in the teaching building is not more than half of the seats. Moreover, the further forward the class, the fewer people there are. Just now, after handing in my paper, I went to the second floor to take a look. I found that the situation on the second floor was exactly the same as the first floor. And our class is in the classroom closest to the edge on the third floor. A lot of seats are already empty. However, the other classrooms on the third floor do not have fewer people. Linnea Yang became even more puzzled when she heard this. What does this imply? Evan Zhao's slightly furrowed brow replied. Imagine if the classmate's death was caused by some curse. So the curse spreads from the first floor. It's like some kind of virus infecting class by class. And now it has spread to our class. This curse has created some kind of rule. And anyone who breaks this rule will die. Is that rule related to exam discipline? Toby and Liam hugged each other fearfully. Evan Zhao paused for a moment and continued. You guys think about it. I was loud and rowdy just now. I kicked the head of the classmate in front of me. It must have disrupted the order of the examination room. But even so, the invigilator did not lay a hand on me. Instead, it was the chubby student in front of me who inexplicably had his head chopped off. So he must have done something to trigger the death point. And the deceased students, they must have done the same thing. If you are attentive enough, you will find that the examination papers and scratch papers on the empty seats are blank. A few students' papers are also blank. Linnea Yang seemed to have understood something at this point. I have noticed this as well. The final blank test papers were all handled by female teacher. There were a total of 7 people. Is that blank test paper the trigger for death? Evan Zhao shook his head after listening. It shouldn't be that simple. The test paper is not the trigger for death. From the completion of the previous dungeon, even Inferno difficulty dungeons, people simply won't find it too difficult just to complete the main storyline. The truly challenging part is exploring the worldview of the subquest side quests. So the mainline quest of this dungeon won't be too difficult either. Toby's lips turned pale as he spoke with a trembling voice. You said so much already. Just tell us directly. What triggers death? I don't want to die. I really want to leave this place soon. Evan Zhao touched his nose, feeling a bit embarrassed. At the moment, I also don't know what triggers death. Even though it's not an exam, it should be related to the exam. And there is something I have to tell you in advance. His eyes suddenly lit up with excitement as he said this. Seriously speaking, it is very likely that only the 4 of us are living people in this school. The others are all ghosts. The man is trapped in a terrifying ghost school. Apart from 3 companions, everyone else here is a ghost. They not only have to figure out how to survive until 7 days later. They also need to complete the quest to obtain the sacrificial doll. They experienced a brutal test as soon as they entered here. Although, several of them safely survived from female teachers' hands. But they are still not clear about the rules here. They can easily lose their lives carelessly. Especially when they hear it from Evan Zhao's mouth. Only the 4 of them are alive then. Toby was so scared that his legs buckled, and he almost passed out. Several people were a bit speechless at the sight. Linnea Yang asked helplessly what to do next. The time in this dungeon is too tight, and the pace seems loose. She doesn't know where to start. Evan Zhao glanced towards the classroom in the distance upon hearing this and replied, Wait until it gets dark. But why do we have to wait until it gets dark? Liam couldn't help but feel puzzled. Evan Zhao turned to look at him. Do you think as students, we have extra time during the day to look up the information we want? Linnea Yang felt it made sense as expected of the top student. There is indeed some truth to that. So, shall we set a time and place to meet tonight? Later, a few people agreed to meet at 12 o'clock at the pavilion behind. At this moment, Toby, who had just woken up, raised his trembling hand. Can I skip it? I'm scared of bumping into ghosts, he interjected. Evan Zhao nodded and replied, Of course you can. But let me remind you in advance. You'll be alone at night. If you hear or see anything, don't scream out loud. No one will come to help you because we won't be around. Toby trembled in fright upon hearing this. Bro, I'm out of here. Can I leave? Is not okay? Not long after, the evening self-study session ended. Students started returning to the dormitory one after another. Evan Zhao also followed and walked to his own room. He pushed open the door and was surprised to find that the conditions of this dormitory were not bad. Although a bit crowded, it was still clean and tidy. Evan Zhao had just sat down on the bed when he heard a reminder. After a day of taut nerves, you finally breathe a sigh of relief when you returned to the dormitory. So you started feeling drowsy and quickly entered into a possibly not-so-sweet dreamland. With the sound fading, he seemed to be hypnotized by a mysterious force and drifted off into a daze. I don't know how long time has passed. Evan Zhao, who was sleeping drowsily, suddenly opened his eyes. The dormitory was empty at this moment. He was the only person in the entire dormitory building. Evan Zhao suddenly had a bad premonition. It seems like something is wrong. He checked the time on his phone. He found that there were only 3 minutes left until the agreed time. So he hurried to the agreed place. The surroundings had changed drastically. The wall paint peeled off, revealing decaying mold stains. The desolate ruin looked extremely bleak. Linnea Yang was nervously pacing back and forth. She finally breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing Evan Zhao. "How about you? Where are the rest of them?" Evan Zhao replied that he didn't see anyone. "Everyone has disappeared. I even thought you guys were gone too." Linnea Yang was worried after hearing that. Could it be that they have already been harmed? Evan Zhao comforted her, saying, "Don't worry too much. We probably haven't triggered the death point yet. They are most likely still alive. Judging from the surrounding scenery, we have probably entered a place similar to the inner world. But this is also a good thing. The inner world makes it easier for us to explore the school more deeply. Let's go see what the current teaching building looks like." Linnea Yang responded and quickly followed behind. She only feels secure when she is not an inch away from Evan Zhao. Just arrived at the area of the teaching building. A dark figure suddenly appeared ahead. In the dark shadow, a pair of crimson eyes seemed to be staring at them. Linnea Yang asked in a horrified tone what it was. Evan Zhao replied that he didn't know either. He said, "But anyway, it's definitely not human." After saying this, he took big steps towards the dark figure. Linnea Yang quickly stepped forward and grabbed him. "Do you go there even if you know it's not a person, risking your life?" Evan Zhao immediately started to explain. "If it's a neutral unit, it may help us collect information." Linnea Yang asked back, "What if it isn't?" He smiled meaningfully after hearing it. Then he took out his own scalpel. "If not, then I will turn it into a neutral unit." Linnea Yang was somewhat speechless at the words. At that moment, she felt that the other party was more terrifying than Ghost. The audience outside the live broadcast room were now boiling with excitement. "Damn, this guy really has guts." Evan Zhao boldly walked towards the shadow with a surgical knife in hand. The shadow, who was originally in a detached state, was temporarily stunned for a few seconds when he saw Evan approaching. Immediately after, the shadow swiftly ran into the teaching building. Evan Zhao couldn't help but frown when he saw this. The distance was too far. He didn't have time to activate his skill to see the hints clearly. "Don't go. Let's chat." With that, he immediately accelerated and hurried to catch up. A ghost shadow suddenly appeared in front of the man, but he was not only unafraid but also walked straight past with a scalpel in hand. The ghost shadow saw the man's fierce appearance. The ghost shadow was so scared that it immediately began to flee frantically. Evan Zhao, seeing this, followed closely with the scalpel in hand. He ran madly up the pitch-black staircase. After being stunned for a moment, Linnea Yang quickly followed up. "Have you always been this brave?" She was speechless at this point. Evan Zhao replied that it was not the case. In fact, he had always been very cautious. "Cautious? Today you acted in front of the invigilator female ghost. You disrupted the exam discipline." He listened to her complaints without looking back and explained, "That's because I am 100% sure female ghosts won't lay a hand on me." "Did you not pay attention during the exam this afternoon? Several classmates were cheating right under the invigilator teacher's nose. After the invigilator teacher discovered it, he just gave a warning. This shows that disrupting exam discipline and breaking the rules will not trigger a death prohibition spell." Linnea Yang pondered this for a moment. She really didn't pay attention to this. At this moment, Evan Zhao's footsteps suddenly stopped. Not reacting in time, she bumped right into him. "Why did you stop without saying anything?" Linnea Yang was interrupted halfway through her sentence when Evan Zhao made a gesture for silence. Realizing that things were going south, she quickly covered her own mouth. In the darkness, she could barely see clearly. The two of them carefully came to the door of a classroom. They peeked inside quietly through the glass. They saw an empty classroom. Suddenly, numerous dark shadows appeared. Linnea Yang was instantly frightened. The body also couldn't help but shudder. What are these dark shadows? Evan Zhao said he couldn't be sure either. Come to our class and take a look. Then the two of them didn't say anything. They went straight to Class 8, Grade 11. They saw through the glass that there were also silhouettes inside. The difference was that there weren't as many silhouettes as downstairs. And there was also one standing on the platform. Strangely, these silhouettes corresponded to the positions of the people who died during the day. This made Evan Zhao frown involuntarily. At that moment, Linnea Yang trembled and pointed ahead, signaling him to look. What's wrong? Evan Zhao raised his head in confusion to look. Only a scarlet eye staring them hard. And it was the eye of the shadow on the platform. In an instant, the two fell into a freezing cell. The hair on their bodies stood up in fear. Recognizing the danger, Evan Zhao immediately grabbed her and ran downstairs. The man is trapped in the ghost-infested school, and he must find a way to survive here for 7 days. But as time passes, eerie things keep happening. The classroom, empty of all people, suddenly filled with a large number of dark shadows. Even scarier was the female teacher on the platform. At that moment, she was staring at him with crimson eyes. Evan Zhao was instantly covered in cold sweat. He quickly grabbed the girl next to him and ran frantically for his life. But just as they ran down the stairs, a terrifying laughter rang out. A struggling ghost was blocking their way at this moment. It's too scary. How do we get past? Linnea Yang is afraid. Her heart started beating violently. Her spiritual power also rapidly declined. But Evan Zhao walked over without any fear. Linnea Yang was a bit puzzled. The next second, she was grabbed by Evan Zhao's arm. Then he pulled her and charged straight ahead. Ghost moved his body slightly and prepared to welcome the arrival of the prey. At this moment, Evan Zhao instantly threw out his own surgical knife. The sharp blade flashed by. In the blink of an eye, it hit Ghost right in the head. The sound of the blade piercing echoed. The terrifying laughter of Ghost also came to a sudden halt. Evan Zhao watched as the opponent fell. A faint smile hung on his lips. Because of the clues just now, he knew that this was just a low-level dangerous ghost. Ding, you killed the unlucky ghost, Chong, who came out to use the bathroom. Your soul-bound weapon has gained a slight enhancement. No time to linger. Evan Zhao quickly drew out his own scalpel. He then took Linnea Yang along and continued to flee. The main gate is not far away. Hurry up. It must not leave the academic building, Evan Zhao immediately reminded. Upon hearing this, Linnea Yang's eyes lit up. She quickened her pace once again. That's great, we are about to run out now. Just as she was excited, little did she know a pair of big hands had already reached behind her. The next second, she, who was just about to go out, was grabbed by the darkness. A shadow caught her by the neck. The cold sensation permeated her whole body for a moment. Before she could react, she was dragged back into the building by the shadow. Evan Zhao, who had just arrived at the door, heard Linnea Yang's cry for help. He turned around and without hesitation, swung his weapon. The scalpel made a sharp sound as it stabbed. Half of Linnea Yang's ear was instantly sliced off. The speed of the surgical knife did not decrease. It then hit the dark shadow behind, followed by a piercing scream. Those arms also released the girl, who was being controlled. Seeing this, her adrenaline surged to the extreme. She immediately scrambled and rushed outside. A few seconds later, she arrived by Evan Zhao's side. At this moment, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. Her body went limp. Immediately, a liquid also flowed onto the ground. She has already left, Evan Zhao comforted with a sentence. Linnea Yang gradually came to her senses after hearing this. The pain in her left ear was getting stronger. She touched it with her hand, only to find that her ear was missing. Seeing Linnea Yang's pitiful teary-eyed look, Evan Zhao sighed helplessly. It's not a big deal. The dungeon will regenerate after it ends, including her ear. At this moment, the audience outside the live broadcast room was all stirred up. Damn! My goddess almost died. No wonder he's the top-ranked man. If it were me, I'd probably have run without looking back. He actually still wants to save people. That throwing knife was vicious. If it had been a little more off-target, it would probably be stuck in Linnea Yang's forehead. After helping her bandage the wound on her ear, Evan Zhao made a decision that would shock everyone's socks off. Then he turned to Linnea Yang next to him and said, "Wait here. I'll go in again." The girl was tightly gripped by the ghost around her neck. Fortunately, she was able to escape from the ghost's grasp with the help of the man. Still shaken, she had not yet recovered her senses. He heard the man say that they were going to enter ghost school again. Linnea Yang was completely panicked at the moment. Are you crazy to continue walking in there? What if it's waiting to ambush you? Wouldn't you be falling into a trap? Upon hearing this, Evan Zhao began to explain. No, they won't. The ghosts in this school do not move freely. They all follow certain rules. For example, the invigilator who was just chasing us. I am sure it won't follow us out of the building. Otherwise, it would violate its own rules and receive unexpected punishment that we cannot imagine. Linnea Yang lowered her head at the words. At this moment, she finally felt a coolness in her lower body. Damn it, I peed myself out of fright again. How embarrassing. Then she blushed and changed the subject. Did you go back into the teaching building because there was some important information inside? Evan Zhao pondered for a moment before responding. I need a class roster. It's too risky to take the one in the examiner's hands. There should be a backup copy in the office. He gestured to go in. At this moment, Linnea Yang suddenly spoke up and requested, Can you take me with you? Evan Zhao looked at her with interest. Are you sure? She took a deep breath and replied firmly, You know it. If I don't do anything, even if I clear the level, my score and points will be very low. Don't worry, I won't cause you trouble. If you really encounter danger, just run away. You don't need to care about me. She was afraid of being rejected. She quickly added, I'll follow you. Who knows when I might be able to help? All right then. Evan Zhao hesitated for a moment, but eventually agreed. Then the two of them entered the classroom building once again. The ghosts in the hallway seemed restless, yet for some reason, they did not attack them. Linnea Yang inquired with confusion. She asked why you wanted to go to the third floor earlier. To check out our classroom? Evan Zhao responded that he went to the third floor to verify his guess. The dark shadows in our classroom are those who died during the day. Soon, the two of them arrived at the office on the fourth floor. After making sure there was no movement inside, Evan Zhao carefully opened the door and walked in. The room was a bit messy with things scattered everywhere. After locking the door, the two of them started searching for the directory. Evan Zhao analyzed as he searched. During the day, there are 472 seats in 8 classrooms on the first floor. 121 students are seated in completely random seats. I roughly noted down all of their positions. The seats the shadows sat in the classroom on the first floor just now happened to be the empty seats in the daytime classroom. If it was just one class, it might be a coincidence. But if it's the case for 8 consecutive classes, I think that's enough to become a rule. But just to be cautious, I went to the third floor again. There. I saw the little fat boy sitting in front of me. He was caught cheating by the teacher during the day. In his place, I indeed saw a shadow. So, we can now come to a fundamental conclusion. These shadows are the people who were killed during the day. Linnea Yang felt a bit skeptical about life after hearing that. You said you have recorded all the positions of 472 seats and 21 students in the 8 classrooms on the first floor. But you only took a glance. Ah. Evan Zhao raised his head in confusion and looked at her. Is it not enough? Linnea Yang didn't know what to say when she heard this. She didn't understand that they were all human. Why is the gap so big? The man is trapped in the terrifying ghost school. He must find a way to survive safely for 7 days. During his exploration, he discovered that a large number of dark shadows appear in the classrooms at night. And these shadows seem to be the people killed by the invigilator teacher during the day. Linnea Yang heard his speculation with some confusion. But what use is it for us to know this? Evan Zhao then explained, "It's very useful. Based on such a rule, we can make an inference about the rule. During the day, people are in a living state. The dark shadows at night are in a dead state. Living and dead people cannot occupy the same seat. Otherwise, it is considered a violation of the rule and will result in execution." Linnea Yang still doesn't understand what this means. But those shadows have already died once, haven't they? Can they die again? Evan Zhao did not respond after listening, because he found a roster and a letter inside the cabinet. He set the letter aside and began flipping through the roster immediately. Not only did it list the names and schedules of the classes, but it also marked the position of each person. Evan Zhao remembered the time displayed in the classroom earlier, September 14th, which is today. The seat in front of my name is empty. There is no name there. That means during the daytime test, that seat should not be taken. But that chubby boy sat here. He realized that he was sitting in the wrong seat. But he didn't know which was the right seat. So he was scared because he thought he would die for sitting in the wrong seat. Linnea Yang suddenly became excited upon hearing this. "Let's just take this roster with us. In the following days, won't we know where we should be sitting? This way, we can get through the 7 days." Evan Zhao pouring cold water on hearsay isn't that easy. We enter the dungeon on the 14th. We need to survive a total of 7 days at the school. So theoretically, if daytime is continuous. So, the dungeon should end on September 20th. But all slots on the roster for the 20th are empty. Linnea Yang took a sharp breath at this news. Why is that? Evan Zhao revealed a meaningful smile at the corner of his mouth. Because on that day we will all die. Linnea Yang's hair stood on end the moment she heard the other party's words. Her spiritual power also decreased significantly. "Don't scare me. I'm very timid." Evan Zhao then picked up the envelope next to him. He found inside not only a thick stack of paper money, but also a short letter. "The principal is really sorry. I have caused you trouble. I will pay more attention to such things in the future. I heard that his mother is his only relative. Now that this matter has escalated like this, he may not let it go easily. Please talk to the mayor more. This money is not much. Consider it a small token of filial piety to you." The content inside has been heavily edited. Many key messages have been crossed out. It seems that it hasn't been sent out yet. Evan Zhao furrowed his brows and began to contemplate. At this moment, he heard a ding sound in his ear. The outline of the surgical knife also gradually appeared in the air. He immediately grabbed the surgical knife and looked at Linnea Yang, who had just returned with the weapon. "Let's go to the principal's office." Before leaving, the two quickly returned the items to their original positions. Then Evan Zhao took out some paper money again. Linnea Yang curiously asked him what he was doing with the money. Evan Zhao looked at her with a meaningful response just in case. The man unexpectedly received 1 billion hell banknotes. But he dare not spend a penny of it. Because it's a world full of ghosts everywhere. These ghost money will help them escape disaster. Linnea Yang is full of doubts. "Can you explain in detail? I still don't understand why you want to take that money." Evan Zhao then explained immediately. Whether the people in this school are humans or ghosts, they are all following their own rules and doing things. The teacher is invigilating. Unless there are special circumstances, they cannot leave the classroom for too long. But the principal is different. The principal spends most of the time in the school, but is not as busy as the teachers. So if he is in the office, we have to find a way to draw him out of the office. Linnea Yang's eyes lit up when she heard this. "I understand that. But what does drawing him out have to do with this money?" As soon as the words were spoken, Evan Zhao made a hushing gesture because they had just walked through the corridor and arrived at the principal's office on the top floor. The two of them cautiously looked through the glass, and some unstable data began to reappear. Principal, high danger. It is obviously not something that you guys, the vegetables, can directly confront. But his ability to act has been greatly limited, causing him to have to run with the same hand and foot. The principal is counting the ghost money in his hand. Obviously, he is a die-hard money fanatic. You stay here and watch it for me while I go and lay out the money. Evan Zhao quietly reminded me with a sentence before taking action. He used these paper money to lure the principal out of the office. It took about 10 minutes. He spread all the paper money in his hand on the ground. After doing all this, he clapped his hands and returned to the office door. Got it. When I knock on the door later, you run with me to the stairs to the rooftop. Then find a place to hide. Linnea Yang nodded in understanding after hearing this. She finally understood the other party's intentions. After that, Evan Zhao knocked on the office door. At the moment when the principal turned around in confusion, the two of them had already quickly left. Soon the door was opened. The bloated and obese principal then walked out. His head creaked and twisted 360 degrees. But he didn't see anyone. There was only a faint smell of urine in the air. He began to search along the smell in confusion. But before he could take a few steps, the held banknotes at his feet caught his attention. A sinister smile appeared at the corner of the principal's mouth. He quickly bent down to pick them up. The man spread out the 1 billion held banknotes on the ground. Then a twisted ghost stuck its head out through the crack in the door, looking at the bright red banknotes below. He was stunned for a few seconds, then involuntarily picked up the money. After he walked a little further, Evan Zhao finally revealed his figure. We're going to the office to find a file. Linnea Yang heard this, and was a bit confused. What file? From the previous letter, it can be seen that a student's mother had a conflict with the school. Moreover, the school has caused very serious harm to his mother, even killed his mother. Just as the conversation got to this point, the money collector ghost had already disappeared into the distance. Evan Zhao quickly waved for Linnea Yang to catch up. So now we need to find that student's file to see what exactly happened. Linnea Yang carefully observed the surroundings while asking as she spoke. However, if it's really as you guessed, would something damaging the school's reputation be recorded in the file? Evan Zhao casually opened the storage cabinet and began to analyze it. However, student withdrawals are recorded. There are not many reasons for a huge conflict to occur between the school and a student's parents. It's nothing but because of the child's safety, health, or academic performance. Stonehill High School is a military-style closed school with strict rules that prohibit students from fighting, and there is strict supervision. Things that threaten the safety and health of students are almost non-existent, so it's hard to provoke conflicts between the school and students' parents, or even motivate them to get into physical fights. The motivation is mostly related to the issue of students dropping out. Linnea Yang's eyes lit up when she heard this. Oh yeah, why didn't I think of that? Following Evan Zhao's thorough investigation, he found an interesting person in the files. Qinshan ranked first in the whole grade. He was expelled in September for dating too early. A top student with such excellent grades was expelled for dating too early. This made him feel that things shouldn't be that simple. Linnea Yang glanced oddly. Does the school have rules that expel students for dating too early? Evan Zhao replied. I roughly flipped through it. The records of other disciplined students. The punishment for early dating is both parties suspended and parents called. Qinshan is the only one who got expelled. Such an outstanding student. Normally they would only receive lighter punishment compared to other students. Unless he is in the midst of puppy love. He has provoked someone who is completely unmanageable. Linnea Yang became curious and started guessing. Either his puppy love interest has a background, or his love rival has a background. Evan Zhao is more inclined towards the latter. After all, a person with such outstanding academic performance usually values their self-esteem greatly. If Quinchen pursues a female classmate and she rejects him, and then Quinchen keeps pestering her, the probability of the female classmate resorting to her background to force him to drop out is relatively low. If a person is rejected by someone they like, they shouldn't continue to pester that person. So the second scenario is more reasonable. We need to look into the matter regarding Quinchen. There might be some good leads. Linnea Yang shook her head helplessly and asked, "Where can we look it up? Our phones were all issued by the school. We can't connect to the internet, so we can only set alarms." "You can connect to the internet in the computer room," Evan Zhao said as he closed the locker. But at this moment, Linnea Yang stood still in shock, trembling uncontrollably. She realized it, and weakly pointed towards the door. A strong aura of killing intent instantly pervaded around Evan Zhao. Realizing the danger, Evan Zhao suddenly turned around. He saw the bloated and ferocious ghost staring at him intently. "Oh no! The principal is back early." A man and a woman sneaked into Ghost's room to seek excitement. Little did they know, they had fallen into Ghost's trap. The man who realized the danger suddenly turned his head. Just at that moment, the originally bloated, obese figure transformed into the body of a young man. As he walked step by step into the room, the walls of the entire house began to peel off, revealing a flow of crimson blood. "You should all die. They should all die," they heard the bitter voice. Evan Zhao immediately protected Linnea Yang behind him. Immediately after that, he took out Gramps Lu's property title from the storage space. "Are you Quinchen? We are here to investigate the truth. What exactly happened between you and your mother back then?" The figure in black paused for a moment upon hearing the words, "Truth." Then it covered its head and let out a piercing scream. The deafening sound made both of them dizzy. Linnea Yang's HP keeps decreasing incessantly. I fought back against it. Seeing that it couldn't go on like this, she took out a hunting rifle from the storage space. I am not Quinchen. Mother, Eva Zhang, Sef Pang." The dark figure sometimes laughed loudly with his head up, sometimes struggled with his head in his hands. He intermittently uttered these words. Then its head gradually started to swell. In a moment, dozens of tentacles with spikes drilled out from inside. The two of them suddenly felt their scalps tingle as they watched this scene. What the hell is this fiend? Linnea Yang was so scared that her legs were shaking like a sieve. The hunting rifle in her hand was almost too shaky to hold and nearly dropped to the ground. The dark figure then slowly walked towards the two of them step by step. They were about to retreat into a dead end and fall into danger. Linnea Yang pretended to stay calm, holding a hunting gun and preparing to risk her life. "Evan Zhao, you run quickly, I'll hold it back." At the moment the hunting gun was raised by her, several sharp thorns were already approaching. "Quickly move away." Evan Zhao saw the situation was not in his favor. While retreating, he kicked Linnea Yang in the body. The next moment, the spikes hit the positions where the two people were just now. The ground shattered like tofu under this blow. Linnea Yang, who narrowly escaped disaster, fell with a bang onto a distant wall. And Evan Zhao, who was relatively closer, found himself in danger once again. Just as he landed, he found several sharp spikes suddenly shooting towards him. The tentacles with the spikes moved so fast that they produced a sonic boom. Oh, with Evan Zhao's current reaction speed, it's simply impossible to dodge this attack. If he were hit by it, he would probably die instantly. Just as it seemed like he was about to meet his end, a gunshot suddenly broke the stalemate. The dark figure let out a howl, and was forced to stop the attack. "Evan Zhao, you go quickly. I will cover you." Linnea Yang tightly gripped the hunting rifle in her hand, her eyes filled with determination. Damn, so cool. Even though she peed her pants, she is still my goddess. Seizing this opportunity, Evan Zhao quickly steadied his stance. Ordinary firearms are basically ineffective against Ghost, but the impact of the bullets helped him fend off this deadly attack. Linnea Yang was screaming at this moment. She fired 2 shots at the dark shadow. The shadow that was hit stiffened up, Evan Zhao, seeing the situation, chose not to flee. He seemed to be contemplating something. A crimson color bloomed in his eyes. He then rolled towards the other party. This rolling brought the two sides significantly closer. He quickly pulled out a property title. He suddenly stuck it onto the black shadow. At this moment, a spike also arrived at Evan Zhao's head. 1 more centimeter. His head would explode like a watermelon. At this moment, the effect of property title finally manifested. Gramps Lu's property title has been unsealed. It forcibly seals a fiend within 5 meters for 10 seconds, with a cooldown of 1 day. The black shadow stood still motionless. Evan Zhao quickly turned his head. He looked at Linnea Yang and ran quickly. After saying that, the two took the opportunity to run towards the door immediately. At this point, the door was already surrounded by black bugs. Linnea Yang raised the hunting rifle and pulled the trigger fiercely. After the door was broken open, they fled into the darkness of the corridor without looking back. And a few seconds later, the black shadow also lifted the seal. At this moment, the people outside the live broadcast room are all sweating nervously. Can they escape this time? The girl is shooting wildly at the fiend with a hunting rifle. And the man took out the property title and pasted it on the fiend. But their actions did not cause effective harm to the fiend. Taking advantage of the short few seconds, they immediately fled from here. After leaving the house, the two of them fled for their lives all the way. The distorted black shadow was bouncing and jumping, chasing after them from behind. As the black shadow's arms and legs were extremely uncoordinated, its movements were slightly slower. Evan Zhao immediately waved out his surgical knife upon seeing the situation. With a swishing sound, the tip of the knife pierced into the heart of the dark shadow. Although unable to kill the powerful fiend, delaying some time was still achievable. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the two of them quickly ran to the outside of the teaching building. The distance between them and the dark shadow gradually widened. After a long time, Linnea Yang gasped for breath, indicating that she couldn't run anymore and needed to take a break. Evan Zhao looked around and found that he had already shaken off the figure in black. Only then did he feel relieved. Linnea Yang then asked him where he was going. Evan Zhao replied that he was going to the computer room to take a look. There are still 3 hours before the early reading tomorrow. Let's go to the computer room and try our luck. Maybe we can find out more about Qin Chen's case. At this moment, Linnea Yang seemed to have figured something out. By the way, I have a shotgun for you. In the future, the game will launch the field system. You are currently using a shotgun. You can also increase proficiency in the field of firearms. Evan Zhao took it without any courtesy and said thank you. This shotgun is not a regular firearm in the outside world, but one exchanged in the mall. Although it doesn't cause much damage to ghosts, it can stun them. For new players, it is considered a valuable item. At this time, the live stream barrage was filled with discussions. The Vanquisher sells for 2,000 points in the mall. My goddess just gave it away like that. Evan Zhao saved her twice. It's only right to give back a little gift. After more than 10 minutes, the two of them. Vanquisher is to be sold for 2,000 points in the store. My goddess just gave it to someone like that. Evan Zhao saved her twice. It is also appropriate to give back a little gift. A dozen minutes later, the two of them arrived at the building where the computer room was located. Found the computer room. Evan Zhao pulled out his gun and fired at the door lock. Then the door lock fell to the ground with a clatter. The scene inside also entered the two people's eyes. Having learned from the last lesson, Evan Zhao asked Linnea Yang to keep watch at the door. He then strode in himself. Then he used the internet to search for information about Qin Chen online. Watching him frantically typing on the keyboard, Linnea Yang couldn't help but ask, "How is it going?" Evan Zhao replied with an overcast expression. That person has a very influential background. The information online has been blocked and cleaned up. But it's okay, he can access the Black Sea for inquiries himself. Upon hearing this, Linnea Yang was a little confused. What is the Black Sea? Evan Zhao explained that it is the internet's junkyard. Generally speaking, information on the internet is not completely deleted. All data that has ever appeared, when cleared, the code will be placed in the Black Sea. However, entering the secret chamber in the Black Sea is very troublesome. It requires compiling, trial and error, modification, and then logging in. Linnea Yang looked at him with some confusion. Were you a hacker before? Why do you understand so much? Evan Zhao responded seriously after listening. I am a psychologist, but my mind can communicate with data. I had a patient before who was a hacker. He suffered from extremely severe delusions. He used to tell me every day that he could inject his mind into the internet, to swim in the boundless ocean of code. At first, he wandered around the virtual world by himself. After a period of treatment, we were finally able to enter the virtual world together to play. Linnea Yang looked confused when she heard this. The barrage in the live stream room was filled with comments and laughter. So, it turns out it was you who received treatment. I knew this person had some mental issues. Could it be that staying with mentally ill patients for too long has rubbed off on him? Didn't you check his information? Evan Zhao must be joking. He is a mental illness patient. Linnea Yang then curiously asked. What happened next? Evan Zhao sighed helplessly. Later, there was only me left inside because I cured his delusional disorder. Linnea Yang was speechless after listening. I didn't expect you to really make a joke. I almost believed it. At this moment, Evan Zhao suddenly brightened up. Then he snapped his fingers, indicating that he logged in. Linnea Yang was suddenly extremely surprised after hearing this. The computer still displays the previous interface. Could it be that his mind can really communicate with the data? But what Evan Zhao saw in front of him was completely different. A vast amount of information rushed into his mind in an instant. Qinchen's mother. An accident occurred due to a dispute with the homeroom teacher of Class 8 of Stonehill High School. She fell from the third-floor corridor. Resuscitation was unsuccessful, and she passed away on August 13, 2032. Cause of death: severe brain damage. She was holding a kitchen knife. She used it to split the head of homeroom teacher Ming Liang into two halves on date. After the incident, she escaped from the school. Since then, Qinchen has completely disappeared from the human world. Meanwhile, teachers and students at Stonehill High School also began to mysteriously disappear one after another within a month, with none spared. During this period, a large number of police officers were dispatched from City A to search Stonehill High School, but they found nothing. Upon hearing Evan Zhao's account, Linnea Yang suddenly remembered something. August 13, 2032 is a week before August 20th, and another month after that is September 20th. Isn't that the day our main quest ends? Evan Zhao nodded in response. Yes, the electronic calendar in the classroom during the daytime showed the date as 3032. In other words, we have returned to the last 7 days when the curse occurred. No wonder the class roster only goes up to September 19th. Your guess is correct. Everyone will die on September 20th. Linnea Yang couldn't help but feel a little discouraged when she realized this. She had obtained the class roster, thinking she was just one step away from making it through this inferno difficulty dungeon. I was so foolish. Upon seeing her dismayed expression, Evan Zhao spoke up to console her. Fortunately, today is only the first day. We still have plenty of time. From the current situation, as long as one follows Evan Zhao, the chance of surviving is still high. Linnea Yang took a deep breath and rallied herself. We still have a chance. I must pull myself together. At this moment, the sky gradually brightened a bit. A light mist spread from somewhere unknown. Linnea Yang keenly sensed that something was not right. Evan Zhao started to fog up. Upon hearing this, Evan Zhao turned his head in confusion. Realizing the danger, he immediately shut down the computer, restored to its original state. Then he dashed to the door at an extremely fast speed. He grabbed Linnea Yang's hand and ran away into the distance. Run faster. There's something wrong with this fog. The man dragged the girl's hand and ran frantically. But the mysterious haunted fog behind them is relentless. This kind of haunted fog can constantly devour people's spirit points, until it turns them completely into a terrifying fiend. Linnea Yang feels dazed and confused. She bit her tongue quickly in order to stay alive. The intense pain and the taste of blood in her mouth barely helped her keep her sanity. But it seemed to be of little use. Evan Zhao could see that she was on the verge of collapsing. So he immediately pulled her and ran towards the water tower in the distance. Originally he was planning to go back to the dormitory, but he had to choose to hide inside the water tower. The first floor of the water tower was locked with an iron gate. Fortunately, Linnea Yang had given him a hunting rifle earlier. As the bullets whistled out, the iron chain fell to the ground with a loud bang. Evan Zhao quickly pulled her inside. After settling Linnea Yang, he found some things to block the iron gate. He waited until he was sure the fog outside had not seeped in. Evan Zhao finally stopped his movement. By now, the fog was getting thicker. Some data related to the thick fog also appeared in front of Evan Zhao. Ding Fog Advanced Danger has many eerie things inside. If you don't want to encounter them, it's best to find a shelter quickly and hide. Once the fog dissipates, Linnea Yang's spirits began to recover somewhat. Although her face is still pale, her eyes have regained their luster. Thank you for saving my life again. Upon hearing Linnea Yang's grateful words, Evan Zhao, who had intended to speak, suddenly noticed something unusual. He pulled out a hunting rifle, aimed at the direction behind Linnea Yang, and shouted, "Come out! I'll say this only once." Linnea Yang, seeing the situation, asked anxiously what was going on. Suddenly there came a rustling sound from the darkness behind. Seeing this scene, Linnea Yang was instantly frightened. Immediately after, a disheveled man crawled out from the pile of debris. The man raised his hands and smiled with a full face. "Don't kill me! I'm not a bad person." Linnea Yang hurriedly hid behind Evan Zhao. Warning: low-level danger. Congratulations. You actually found a living person in a ghost school. But there is no reward. At this sight, Evan Zhao slowly withdrew the shotgun in his hand. Then he asked cautiously, "Who are you?" The man sighed and replied, "It's a long story. It's not safe here. Something terrifying is about to come in. Let me take you to the basement first." The man finished speaking and then moved away the square tile under his feet. He didn't relax until they entered the basement. Introduce myself. My name is Sheng Li and I am a mysterious event investigator at the original A City Police Department. Here is my ID. Evan Zhao then carefully examined it. Then they introduced themselves to each other. Are you alone? Evan Zhao ran his finger along the corner of the desk lamp and asked. Sheng Li sighed as he sat on the old sofa. It was not long ago, about 3 months. The police had been eyeing the students at Stonehill High School. Teachers mysteriously disappeared one after another. The police and city immobilized a large number of personnel, but to no avail. Under mounting public pressure, the mayor had no choice but to reach out to us. After making preparations, I led the special task force to this school to participate in the investigation. We encountered unexpected strange occurrences. The mobile task force that came to investigate actually consisted of a total of 27 people. But that day, there happened to be fog at the school as well. These people were attacked by terrifying unidentified creatures in the fog. Fully armed, they were almost wiped out without even seeing what the other side looked like. Only 7 people were left in this school, lingering on. 27 people went to ghost school to investigate the disappearance. But they were attacked by the terrifying haunted fog as soon as they arrived. Fully armed, they didn't even see what the other side looked like before they were almost wiped out. Finally, Captain Shun Li escaped into the teaching building with only 6 remaining team members and narrowly escaped disaster. But when the fog cleared, they found that they couldn't get out of the school at all. Outside the school gate was all filled with terrifying thick fog. The 7 of them could only be trapped in the eerie school. They could only struggle to survive. After listening to these narratives, Evan Zhao curiously looked at him and asked bluntly, "Where are your 6 teammates?" Shang Li replied with a dark expression, "They are all dead." Upon hearing these words, Evan Zhao continued to ask, "According to what you said, you have been in school for at least 3 months. What do you usually eat?" Once this was said, Shang Li's face looked even worse. "Can we not talk about this?" Evan Zhao seemed to understand everything at a glance. Just at this moment, above their heads, suddenly came the eerie sound of footsteps. The ground at the entrance, like an old machine, seemed to come to life again, making creaking noises. This was followed by a dense and chaotic shuffle of footsteps that sent shivers down their spines. The dim ceiling lamp began to sway from side to side. Evan Zhao quickly signaled to the 2 people not to speak. Nervously, he tightly gripped the hunting rifle in his hand. None of the 3 dared to breathe. They listened carefully to the footsteps above their heads. They found it hard to imagine what kind of fiend might be above them. The fiend wandered back and forth for a long time before finally leaving. At this point, the few people finally heaved a long sigh of relief. Shang Li quietly explained that he had also discovered the shelter not long ago. Otherwise, he would have died long ago. Just as the words were spoken, Evan Zhao was suddenly bombarded with a few system messages. Player Toby was assimilated into a dungeon fiend due to low spiritual power. Player Liam Bai was attacked by an unknown creature and has died. Congratulations to player Evan Zhao for triggering the side quest to investigate the truth behind Stonehill High School. The quest rewards a rating of 1. Lene Yang also received the message. She covered her mouth in disbelief, while Evan Zhao remained very composed. Then he curiously looked at Shang Li, who has been living on this university campus for 3 months. "Have you encountered anything scary?" Shang Li chuckled bitterly at the words. "How could I not have encountered any? Let me tell you. Stonehill High School is caught in a terrifying cycle of curses. These zombie-like school staff will all die one after another within 7 days. Then they will be reborn again, repeating the cycle of death. The further it goes, the more frightening things will happen." Shang Li couldn't help trembling as he said this. "I've seen it with my own eyes. The last time on the 7th day of the cycle of curses. All the teachers and students in the school carried their own bloody heads, patrolling in every corner of the campus." Lene Yang quickly asked, "Then how did you manage to stay safe and escape? Since you managed to survive for 3 months inside this university, can you help us survive for 7 days?" Shang Li sighed helplessly after hearing that. "I escaped to the water tower at that time. By chance, I discovered this basement. That's how I managed to escape a disaster." Lene Yang was extremely excited after hearing that. "I understand. The water tower must be a hidden safe zone. As long as we stay in this place and don't run around, we can survive for 7 days. Upon hearing this, Shang Li frowned and sighed again with a worried expression. "Things are probably more complicated than you think. The curse of this school is expanding continuously. The water tower was indeed safe before. The haunted fog outside would ignore this area, not even sparing a glance at the water tower. But later, they started to linger outside the water tower. Then, they would knock on the door to see if anyone was inside the room. After that, they simply forced their way into the water tower to search everything here. On the 7th day of the last cycle, I hid in the basement and almost got exposed. This time we are still hiding in the basement. Just afraid." Shang Li suddenly closed his mouth, because the footsteps above were sounding again at this time, and this time they were even more frequent. These footsteps clearly belong to more than one fiend. Once they are exposed, it will be like fish in a barrel doomed to die. The ground was filled with banging impact sounds. The chilling sensation made several people's hair stand on end. Evan Zhao realized that something was not right. He quickly picked up the ladder and placed it under the entrance tile. Underneath that brick at the entrance, there was no connection. The sound of tapping was hollow. It needs to be pressed against. It made the tile sound the same as the others. Evan Zhao finished speaking and pressed his body against the tile. And Linnea Yang and Sheng Li also carefully held onto the ladder. Ghost is just suspicious at the moment. It is not confirmed that there is a secret room below. Even though knocking through a thick layer of floor tiles, it still shook Evan Zhao all over in convulsions. All three of them gritted their teeth and supported themselves firmly, not daring to relax in the slightest. Until the ghost knocked for a while, confirming everything was fine before leaving. Sheng Li panted heavily with a lingering fear in his heart. See, I told you. The tower is no longer safe. Want to survive the next cycle of curses? We either find the next shelter or break the curse. Evan Zhao glanced at him casually without speaking. Linnea Yang, on the other hand, brightened up upon hearing this. Breaking the curse. Do you know how to break the curse? Three people huddled in the basement, trembling with fear. Because the terrifying ghost above is searching for them. Once exposed, they are doomed without a doubt, like sitting ducks in a barrel. The only way for them to escape is to break the ancestral curse of this ghost school. Linnea Yang asked in confusion about how to lift the curse. Sheng Li remained silent for a moment before saying he knew a way, but it would be extremely difficult to carry out. He said he couldn't do it alone and needed help. Upon hearing this, Linnea Yang said, "We can help you." Sheng Li gritted his teeth and said, "I trust you guys. Anyway, continuing like this is a dead end. It's better to take a risk. After our previous research and investigation, we found that the curse of reincarnation at this university began with a student. That student's name is Qinshan, and he is a poor student. At the beginning, his days were relatively alright. But later, his father was working in the mines back in their hometown and got buried inside, ending up dead. The coal boss ran away and didn't compensate a penny, leaving the mother and son to rely on each other for survival. The mother is disabled and can only rely on tailoring to support their livelihood. Fortunately, Qinshan has been ambitious since childhood. They achieved outstanding academic results, got accepted into Stonehill High School, and received a large scholarship. Originally, this was the cradle nurturing his dreams. Unfortunately, an unexpected incident occurred. His desk mate is called Eva Zhang. She has good grades and looks pretty. As they spent more time together, Qinshan became infatuated with her madly. Later, a transfer student named Xiaopeng came to the class. He was the son of the mayor. He also fell in love with Eva Zhang and directly asked the homeroom teacher to exchange his seat with Qinshan. So, the person with the best grades in the class ended up sitting in the back row. Qinshan knew about his family's poverty and endured it silently. But one time he saw Xiaopeng reaching into Eva Zhang's clothes, and Eva Zhang didn't dare to resist. He finally couldn't hold back the anger in his heart. Out of revenge, he bribed several classmates with poor family backgrounds using his own scholarship fund. One night, they dragged Xiaopeng into a small forest and gave him a brutal beating. But all of this was captured by surveillance cameras. Unable to withstand interrogation, they confessed and implicated Qinshan. Qinshan was then ordered to drop out of school. Qinshan's mother later came to Stonehill High School to plead with the class teacher for mercy. In the midst of the argument, the class teacher accidentally pushed her down the stairs. You can probably guess what happened next. Qinshan's mother's death was used to manipulate and pressure them. A few days later, Qinshan sneaked into the university alone. They used a kitchen knife to end their homeroom teacher's life before escaping without a trace. Speaking of this, Sheng Li suddenly paused. In fact, this is just the information from the outside world. In reality, Qinshan never ran away. They passed away in the university. They passed away in the underground parking garage in Block B. Because their resentment was too deep, it affected the entire university. And the way to break the curse is to destroy their corpse. When we first entered the university, we brought a very powerful weapon. But before we had a chance to use it, we were attacked. The item was left in the underground garage in the West Campus, inside a vertical shaft with the words, "Dirty Flame," written on it. That particular weapon requires identity recognition, but it won't take too long. As long as you can help me attract Quinchin Spirit's attention, I will be able to activate the weapon soon. Destroy Quinchin's corpse. I only need 3 minutes. Linnea Yang looked at Evan Zhao after listening to these inquiries. Do you think we should help him? Evan Zhao pondered for a moment, and then said he could help. When should we take action? Shun-Li saw it. The other party agrees, and a smile immediately appears on their face. It's too late for tonight. You guys will come to the water tower here tomorrow evening. I will take you to the underground parking garage in the Western District. 3 people were trapped in the terrifying ghost school. They must destroy the vengeful ghost inside in order to break the curse. In order to escape safely from here, they have made a plan and agreed to take action the next evening. The time quickly arrived for the next day. Evan Zhao and Linnea Yang came to the cafeteria, waiting for the night to fall. With the help of the roster, they managed to safely survive until the end in the classroom. Evan Zhao was scooping rice into his mouth while asking if the other person had any fishing line, as long as it was thin, long and strong enough. Linnea Yang is a bit puzzled about what it's for. Evan Zhao calmly said 2 words. Murder. Upon hearing this, Linnea Yang was momentarily stunned and asked, Kill who? Evan Zhao lifted his head and looked at her seriously. Shun-Li. Seeing that the other party didn't seem to be joking, Linnea Yang panicked and asked Shun-Li who could help us break the curse. Evan Zhao chuckled after listening. If you are still hoping for him to help us break the curse, then we are really close to death. Upon hearing this, Linnea Yang quietly approached and asked him in a low voice, What does that mean? Evan Zhao pondered for a moment and then explained, Firstly, he is just an investigator, not a student from Class 18. Don't you think his description of Quinchin is too detailed? He even knows about Quinchin seeing the mayor's son, Xiao Peng, reaching into Eva Zhang's clothes. Second, these 3 individuals are not in the student roster. If things are exactly as described by Shun-Li, then I believe Quinchin possesses the ability to plunge the entire school into a mysterious power. Would he let Xiao Peng and Eva Zhang go? At the very least, he won't let Xiao Peng go. The 3rd underground chamber of that water tower was not something he stumbled upon by chance. I even suspect that he built it himself. Linnea Yang heard this with some disbelief. This is not very likely, right? The curse of this school has already spread to most corners. Where did he find the time to build such a large basement in front of so many vengeful ghosts? Just as the words fell, Evan Zhao expressed his opinion. There is no dust inside the underground basement. Yesterday I deliberately tried many corners. Lampstands, sofas, even those obstacles have almost no dust. And they are very clean. The basement is generally not cleaned by people. It must be regularly inhabited to be this clean, as you said. After the ancestral curse happened, it is almost impossible to build a basement on the face of a vengeful ghost. So, the basement can only have been built by him before the curse happened. Linnea Yang stunned everyone with her remarks. The other party's observation skills are simply terrifying. Yes, what is his purpose if he deceived us? Evan Zhao went on to explain that in psychology, purposeful lies are often a mix of truth and falsehood. In order to make the lie more logical and realistic, it often needs to include some elements of truth. For example, it is very likely that in the underground parking lot in the West District, even if Quinchin doesn't have a vengeful ghost attitude, there are definitely dangers that we can't imagine. And Shun-Li really wants to enter that stairwell with a filthy fire written on it. But once he goes in, he won't come out again. So that's why he lied. He wants us to risk our lives to lure the ghost outside for him. Evan Zhao analyzed it layer by layer, making Linnea Yang completely believe his words. Then she took out the fishing line from the storage space. After handing it over to the other party, Linnea Yang asked herself what she should do next. Evan Zhao gestured that she didn't need to do anything. Whether it would be successful would depend on tonight's attempt. If we are lucky, we can break the curse tonight. As the sky darkens, Shang Li is pacing back and forth at the door. His eyes light up as he sees the two of you arriving. Why did you come so slowly? Let's go scout the area quickly. We don't have much time left. At midnight, those ghosts will once again permeate the campus, every corner. Evan Zhao nodded in agreement after listening. Let's go scout the area now. The three of them then sneakily headed towards the underground parking lot in the west area. Shang Li explained. The west area underground parking lot has a total of 3 entrances. That ghost is lingering in Area C. His plan is this. The two of you enter through the C door. Intentionally make a noise to attract the ghost. Then you both escape from the other 2 doors separately. Let the ghost chase you out of the parking lot. I will be lurking here. When you distract the ghost, I will immediately go in and activate the weapon. Shang Li's manner exhibited an unnatural excitement as he spoke. Evan Zhao, upon witnessing this scene, became even more certain of his own speculation. However, he remained calm and started to take action without revealing his emotions. When passing by a corner, Evan Zhao took out a grenade and tied it to the iron pole at the entrance. The loop on top is connected to a fishing line that is almost invisible in the darkness. The other end of the line is hidden in his sleeve. The three of them are preparing to escape to the underground parking lot to lure out the vengeful spirit inside the ghost school. After the plan was finalized, they began to take action. Evan Zhao and Linnea Yang cautiously felt their way forward. Shang Li outside the door is extremely nervous. Since that incident, there have been unexpected occurrences. He has been barely surviving in this ghost school for several months. His companions are dwindling, and the food supply is running low. Whether he can survive will depend on this latest attempt. The two soon arrived at the interior of the underground garage. Their gaze swept over restless ghosts wandering everywhere. Evan Zhao asked Linnea Yang to wait in place. He quietly approached them. As the distance closed, the red light in his eyes grew stronger. There was even a faint red glow in his eyes. Error: the source code of player Evan Zhao is out of order. Trying to fix it. Fix failed. The icy voice kept repeating in his mind. The originally dark, invisible areas all became apparent in Evan Zhao's eyes. At this moment, he seemed to be placed in a god's perspective. Everything in the underground parking lot was visible to him, including the terrifying figure hidden in the corner. The erratic quantum state is extremely dangerous. It moves at an extremely fast speed and can traverse most obstacles. Its attacks are incredibly strong, and you cannot resist them. It behaves by massacring any living beings it sees, prioritizing units that make loud noises. Weakness 1. Schrodinger's cat. Weakness 2. Entity. After receiving this data, the red light in Evan Zhao's eyes slowly dissipated. He lost focus for a few seconds before his pupils lit up with vitality once again. He immediately ran back towards the fork in the road with Linnea Yang. After the two of them hid, Evan Zhao then picked up his phone and sent a message to the other party with an "Okay." And Shang Li also replied with an "Okay." In the darkness, a sinister smile appeared on his face. Blame your bad luck if you must. How can one easily believe the words of a stranger? On the other side, a trace of smirk appeared on Evan Zhao's lips. The next moment, he suddenly pulled the fishing line in his hand. The originally barely visible fishing line suddenly went straight, just as Shang Li was about to act. The sound of the pull ring disconnecting from the hand grenade followed. With a loud bang, the fire burst into flames instantly. The violent roar spread throughout the entire underground parking lot. Shang Li was directly hit by the terrifying impact and thrown against the nearby wall. He didn't have time to think about what had happened. His gaze caught sight of a terrifying dark shadow flying towards this direction in the distance. Fuck! His adrenaline surged instantaneously, causing great alarm in his heart. He immediately fled from Area C with a sense of embarrassment accompanied by a dark shadow. Evan Zhao noticed this, and went to the vertical well with filthy marks along with Linnea Yang. On the way, Linnea Yang was curious. Isn't he a newcomer? Where did he get the points to buy grenades? Evan Zhao replied nonchalantly. I used to have a patient who was an arms dealer. I cured his homicidal tendencies. So he gave me a case of hand grenades as a reward. I like to carry a few grenades on me when I have free time. When I'm bored, I take them out and admire them. Upon hearing this, Linnea Yang was instantly confused. After they pried open the manhole cover, she took out a flashlight and handed it to Evan Zhao to open. The flashlight shone brightly on the well wall. There was no filth or dust. The smooth alloy wall reflected the light of the flashlight. At the bottom, they found that ahead was a dead end. In the middle, there was a red button. If he guessed right, this button would be an elevator. Evan Zhao pressed it immediately. The elevator door then slowly opened. As the two entered, the elevator started to operate smoothly. The descent process lasted a full 3 minutes. What appeared in front of the two next was a long and narrow pure white corridor. The sheer shock. It is already impossible to describe Linnea Yang's current mood. Who could have imagined that hundreds of meters underground in a university, there would be such a building? Evan Zhao guessed that this should be some strange experimental base. Because since meeting with the principal, he has vaguely felt that something is wrong. Generally speaking, the more powerful ghosts are, the attacks tend to be more idealistic. Ordinary means are hard to resist. However, based on the experiences of 2 dungeons, it was discovered. Although the boss is powerful, its attack methods are completely physical in nature. This indicates that the principal is not a ghost, but some kind of fiend. Obviously, the Cursed School of Horror is not just a pure supernatural dungeon. Its worldview is even bigger than expected. When Evan Zhao mentioned this, it seemed like he had a very pleased expression on his face. Just then, Linnea Yang quickly gestured for him to look ahead. Several research personnel in special suits were lying in the corridor. Their corpses were torn and mangled, as if they had been bitten by a large wild beast. They were trying to escape from this terrifying ghost school. The two had no choice but to come to the laboratory located 100 meters underground. As they continued to explore further, the secret hidden behind Ghost School is gradually being revealed. At this moment, several experimenters' corpses lay scattered in the corridor, torn apart as if by some large wild beast. Although Evan Zhao doesn't know what they have encountered, one thing is certain: it is not safe here. Evan Zhao looked around, and then led Linnea Yang to a corner. At this moment, an encrypted alloy gate appeared ahead. He came to the side of the control room, and found that the door lock required facial recognition. Linnea Yang immediately showed a worried expression upon seeing this. What should we do now? If we turn back, we may encounter that terrifying dark figure. She had just finished speaking when Evan Zhao suddenly took out a scalpel. Then he turned and walked towards the corpse. What are you going to do? Linnea Yang's eyelids twitched, and she quickly followed behind. Evan Zhao did not answer. He just started to busily work on his own. After a while, he carried a head back here. Seeing this scene, Linnea Yang quickly hid to the side. Now she felt her stomach churning. She almost threw up. Facial recognition successful. As the voice fell, the heavy iron door slowly opened. Evan Zhao casually picked up the head and put it into his inventory. Ding! Obtained item: Heidi's head, quality, white. Heidi would never have thought that even after his death, he would encounter a psychopath who would not spare his only well-preserved head. After the alloy giant gate opened, 3 diverging paths appeared. Linnea Yang followed closely behind. The hand holding the gun had already started to sweat. Obviously, there were huge dangers in this underground laboratory. The two explored the path on the far right. The severed hand on the road was holding a special manuscript. My beloved Lena, I said I would go home to accompany you to play. Work is coming to an end. Father will be home in at most half a month. Rest assured, This time Dad will definitely make it back. Linnea Yang sighed helplessly upon reading the above content. He is a good father who loves his daughter. Evan Zhao replied lightly. Yes, he is a good father. But besides that, he may also be a serial killer. The deaths of thousands of people outside the school are likely connected to him. Linnea Yang was speechless upon hearing this. She suddenly felt no sympathy for this man at all. At this moment, there was a harsh scraping sound coming from the distant corner. The muscles of the two tightened in an instant. They cautiously walked towards the source of the sound. Then hold their breath and quietly observe the situation around the corner. In the next second, a white giant leg appeared in front of the two people. Hundreds of tentacles extended from the giant leg. At the top of the tentacles, there were deformed human heads the size of fists. Linnea Yang feels like she's not doing well at all. What the hell is this thing? It's so disgusting. But Evan Zhao next to her showed a look of fascination. What a beautiful creature. The audience outside the live broadcast room was instantly shocked. Damn, how is this thing beautiful? Suddenly I began to understand. Why did he get excited when he saw the female ghost in the last dungeon? Linnea Yang lost her composure a bit. So what should we do next to deal with this creature? We will, of course, proceed with caution. Evan Zhao then took out his own scalpel. Linnea Yang quickly lifted her own hunting rifle after hearing that. But at that moment, Evan Zhao had already rushed towards the fiend. Ding exclusive tip. The rampage of the mutation is extremely dangerous. It's only a half-finished product. It's not the slightest bit inferior to the quantum state outside. Weakness. Hemorrhoids on the buttocks. Obviously those lunatics were doing terrifying experiments. I didn't expect that mutation would also suffer from hemorrhoids due to long periods of sitting. At this moment, Fiend discovered Evan Zhao. He strode towards the target. Just as the two were about to meet, Evan Zhao suddenly pulled out Gramps' Lose Property title. He directly locked the Fiend in the black cell in front of him. During the 10 seconds when the Fiend was forcibly sealed, Evan Zhao went directly around it, and then made a slash on the hemorrhoid on its buttocks. The clouded space. The bloody red blood bloomed like a chrysanthemum. The body of the Fiend collapsed on the ground like rotten mud. Congratulations on killing the rampaging mutation. Your soul-bound weapon has absorbed the residual eldritch meme of the mutation, and is attempting to reconstruct the meme at 0.01%. Insufficient power to continue reconstruction. Your soul-bound weapon has gained a special ability called entanglement, which affects units harmed by your soul-bound weapon. The wounds will continuously grow into devourers, until the unit dies. The strength of the devourer is related to your power and level. Evan Zhao heard the name Eldritch Meme for the first time, although he doesn't know what it is. But Meme only reconstructs 1 in 1,000. It increased his power by 8 points, and also gained a special passive skill. Feeling very awesome. Linnea Yang behind her asked cautiously if it died. Evan Zhao chuckled and replied yes. It should have been a perfect creature, but unfortunately its creator was not very capable. As soon as the words fell, he took the scalpel and began to dissect it. But besides discovering that this fiend has 18 kidneys, he didn't find any useful clues. The two of them then continued walking along the passage. They found a huge cultivator at the end of the corridor. The nearby operating instruments have been stained red with blood. Evan Zhao pulled open the drawer underneath the instrument. He finally found a useful experimental log. The deranged psychologist is trapped in the terrifying ghost school. He wants to escape from here. He can only head to the abandoned laboratory hundreds of meters underground to search for clues. After bravely defeating the fiend with 18 kidneys, he finally obtained a somewhat useful experimental log. On August 7th, X16-3 is in good condition. All organs are growing according to plan. Interestingly, when injected with an excess of 3 times the gradient of male hormones, his kidneys unexpectedly grew even healthier and stronger than before. On August 24th, the mayor came to inspect. Highly praised our progress. After success, Everyone will share millions in bonuses. And my name will also go down in history. On August 26th, the madmen in the hospital successfully completed their shaping of quantum state. I don't know what that is, but I always feel unsettled in my heart. On September 3rd, during dinner, I asked my colleague if they could stop a potential riot if that fiend went out of control. But he seemed to ignore my words and boasted to me about how perfect the creature they created is and how in the future, humanity could even use this to achieve immortality. When I asked him repeatedly about the potential fiend riot, he got angry. Not only did he use harsh words, but also smash my plate. September 12th, look at these damn madmen. On September 13th, we paid a heavy price for our foolishness. Everyone will die, including me. After reading the above journal entry, Linnea Yang speculated that there was an unknown riot in the laboratory. The experimental subject they created went out of control. Then the experimental subject killed everyone. Evan Zhao couldn't help but furrow his brows. At this moment, he seemed to have thought of something. Neither the quantum state rioting outside nor the fiend we just encountered could have appeared out of nowhere. They must have a ground state. It's just the most primitive form of the specimen. With that, he began operating the nearby equipment. I just need to restore these data. Restore them according to their original operation method. Then I will take a look at what the most original ground state is. That's enough. At this time, the instrument is running slowly. The fiend pattern being displayed is gradually peeling off from the data on the body. Its strange appearance is also gradually beginning to revert to its original state. First the legs, then the arms, and finally the head. When fiend is fully restored to its original base state. Everyone was shocked dumbfounded when they found out that the predecessor of this fiend was actually a human named Linnea Yang. And to make it even more surprising, she was a woman. Evan Zhao stared thoughtfully at the projection on the screen. The cells of the fiend exhibit high activity and adaptability. This implies that this girl is very young. Dare to speculate more boldly. This girl is very likely a student at a university. Upon hearing this speculation, Linnea Yang shivered in horror. Are you implying that this college has an underground? Building such a huge mysterious experimental base. Is it to transform students into fiends? Are these people criminals or lunatics? Evan Zhao pondered for a moment. Answered, the fiend just now had 8 kidneys. Each kidney is very young. Now it seems that this laboratory may be selling human organs. If the experiment is successful, this girl's cells can be continuously cultivated to create new fiends, providing a steady supply of kidneys for sale. That means they have cultivated a money-making machine. This research facility obviously has more than just one project. The experimental log I mentioned earlier. The researchers inside seem to be creating some kind of creature about quantum state. The black shadow we encountered outside might be the violent quantum state creature described in the experimental log. Linnea Yang was furious when she heard this. These scoundrels actually built a human experimentation base underneath the school. Cultivating children into these fiends is truly despicable. Evan Zhao shook his head and corrected her opinion. They did not build a human experimentation base underneath the school. They built the school on top of the human experimentation base. The construction of this underground experimental base is quite complex. If they wait for the school to be completed and then secretly build the underground experimental base, it would be impossible. So obviously, the experimental base was built first. And in their plan, Stonehill High School is also a part of it. They need young and energetic subjects to test various experiments. May I ask, what other organization can legitimately gather statistics on young people and their health conditions better than a reputable university? Let's go! We just need some materials to prove this hypothesis now. We can complete the side quest now, Evan Zhao said as he led Linnea Yang to the other fork in the laboratory. On the way back, he skinned the fiend with 8 kidneys. Linnea Yang was so disgusted that she vomited directly. Evan Zhao enjoyed it for a while. Then he reluctantly put it into storage space. The two walked to the other end of the hallway. At the end, they actually found a huge white cafeteria. The two looked cautiously through the crack in the door. Inside, there were countless fiends eating. And their food. It was actually the bodies of those experiment subjects that have already decayed. Linnea Yang covered her mouth in disbelief. So many students have gone missing due to these fiends. Hasn't the police intervened in the investigation? Evan Zhao spoke with a solemn expression. The person who built this laboratory must have extraordinary means. It is highly likely that it was the mayor of City A. But he himself should not be able to achieve this. There is probably a large team behind him. Linnea Yang is a little scared at this moment. What should we do now? Should we go? Evan Zhao did not speak. He took out the piece of leather from the storage space with a smile. Then he tore the leather in half and handed it to Linnea Yang. Linnea Yang instantly understood his intention. I'd rather die than wear this thing, she said, turned around, and ran away. But the next second, she was pulled back by Evan Zhao. And then, with a face that looked like Linnea Yang had just eaten shit, Evan Zhao directly put on the foul and ugly coat. The strong smell of blood and fiend skin on top. It could cover up the odor of the two people. But if fiend detects their disguise, they will be torn to pieces instantly. Evan Zhao grabbed Linnea Yang and pushed open the cafeteria door. With a creak, it opened. One looked around. The fiends, with their twisted shapes, all turned their heads in this direction. A grotesque, struggling fiend's skin. But it retreated under the gaze of the man in front of it, who treated it like a treasure, due to the strong stench emanating from it, to mask the scent of human beings. After the two had dressed, they opened the door to the cafeteria. At this moment, thousands of mutated fiends all turned their heads in this direction. Their eyes were filled with confusion. They seemed to see the two as being of the same kind, but also completely different. So they slowly approached, wanting to probe a little. Watching these fiends come closer, Linnea Yang's legs trembled even more. While Evan Zhao, on the other hand, appeared unusually excited. Pulled Linnea Yang and took the initiative to come to fiends' front. The fiends created by these people have very strong aggressiveness. However, it is all aimed at humans. They are very tolerant towards their own kind. One of them has a bone-spiked knife on its head. The girl with half of her face rotten made a strange sound, as if asking something. Evan Zhao imitated it, making the same sound and movement. Fiend appeared even more confused and asked again a few more times. And Evan Zhao repeated it word for word without missing anything. After a few back and forths, the fiend seemed to finally understand. The creature in front of it was an emotionless parrot. They dispersed when they lost interest. Linnea Yang finally breathed a sigh of relief. She had imagined many scenarios about Evan Zhao and how to resolve the crisis in front of her. But she never expected Evan Zhao's mother to act like a broken record. It was really out of line for her. Without Fiend's obstruction, the two of them wandered around the cafeteria for a while. Evan Zhao then brought her to a door, because he noticed that there were a total of 6 doors in the cafeteria, but this one had never been entered or exited by Fiend. Even every time they passed by this door, they would intentionally avoid it. Upon hearing his words, Linnea Yang curiously asked if they should go in and take a look. If they go in now, will they be discovered? Evan Zhao naturally knew this too. Now is not the time to go in. Let's see if there are any other clues in the cafeteria. Then the two of them passed by a corner where 2 fiends were feasting. Linnea Yang felt disgusted and her stomach started churning at the sight. When the fiends saw the 2 people, they handed over their food. Evan Zhao was taken aback by the opposite party's warm expression. He was speechless for a moment. The atmosphere was so lively that he couldn't resist joining in. As a token of respect, he reluctantly picked up some locusts and stuffed them into his mouth. This scene shocked Linnea Yang, who was nearby, seeing Evan Zhao eat something. Fiend also completely dispelled the remaining suspicion of the 2 people. Next, Evan Zhao began searching underneath the corpse. One of the manuscripts caught his attention. X2 fusion failed. The department received the destruction order. Everyone was unwilling to accept it. We have worked so hard for many years. Clearly, the theoretical data perfectly aligns. Why did it not succeed? Could it be that the Stonehill experimental base will repeat the mistakes of the suspended valley town from years ago? We are not afraid of death, but we cannot tolerate failure. The mayor has instructed us to take the experimental data, evacuate from the Stonehill experimental base, and they will find a way to destroy everything related to Stonehill. However, we are not willing to accept this. Tonight, we will make one final desperate attempt. Suspended Valley Town once again. Upon seeing this, Evan Zhao couldn't help but frown. At this moment, a voice from the system suddenly sounded in their ears. Side quest: investigate the truth behind Stonehill High School. Completion of the quest rewards will be given after the main quest is completed. The content on the manuscript confirms Evan Zhao's conjecture. Stonehill High School was built as an experimental base. The outstanding students gathered from various parts of City A have all become specimens in the base's experiments. I have also seen a twisted dark shadow in the dungeon of the Giant Elephant Hospital before. It can be inferred from the contents of the note that this dark shadow should be X1. In other words, the research base is likely not only limited to the Giant Elephant Hospital and Stonehill High School. With this in mind, he turned his head to look at Linnea Yang. But at this moment, he found that Linnea Yang was quietly sobbing. Evan Zhao immediately pulled him away from that spot upon seeing this. They arrived at a door nearby without any fiend. Only then did they stop. "Why are you crying?" Hearing Evan Zhao's question, Linnea Yang replied softly, "I know the side quest is completed. Even if we die and respawn at the guild headquarters immediately, it's still worth it. But looking at so many students in the cafeteria, I just can't feel happy at all. They once embraced aspirations for the future. How much sweat and effort did it take for them to get admitted to this school? But they didn't expect to enter such a terrifying man-made hell. They were cruelly turned into various fiends. It's really hard to imagine. They must have felt so desperate lying on the operating table." Evan Zhao comforted her by patting her on the shoulder. "Listening now, feeling sorry for them is of no use. Seize the time to focus on the main line. Maybe we can still root out the mastermind behind this experimental base." Linnea Yang wiped away her tears and cheered up again. "What should we do now?" Evan Zhao looked at him seriously and answered, "First, we need to figure out a way to unify with that shadow outside the garage." Upon hearing this, Linnea Yang swallowed hard, feeling somewhat incredulous. "What? Form an alliance with that guy? Are you crazy?" The university's underground, spanning 100 meters, has built an experimental base. And outstanding students from all over have gathered. They have all been cruelly turned into various terrifying fiends. After learning these truths, Linnea Yang suddenly felt chills all over her body. She couldn't imagine how desperate those people must have felt when they were sent to the lab. Evan Zhao understood that now was not the time to sympathize with them. If the two of them want to escape from the ghost school, they have to figure out a way. Unite forces with the fiend outside the garage. Because of the situation where the dark shadow is chasing Sheng Li, it can be analyzed. It is very likely that he is the ultimate creature X2 of this experimental base. The Ritus quantum state is unstable and very powerful. Linnea Yang was stunned after hearing this. "Are you still going to join forces with him? I'm afraid you will be killed before you even get a chance to talk to him." Evan Zhao then questioned if he had such ability. Why was he wandering aimlessly at the entrance? "Don't you find it strange?" Linnea Yang pondered for a moment before replying. "Perhaps he couldn't find a place to go, so he kept lingering there." Evan Zhao shook his head to refute her speculation. "No, rather than saying he couldn't find a place to go, it's more accurate to say that he is guarding the entrance. He goes to kill Sheng Li when he hears any movement, indicating that he doesn't want anyone to enter the experimental base from the vertical shaft. The fiend inside the experimental base would rather eat decaying corpses than go outside, indicating that there is something they fear outside. Obviously, what they fear is not X2, because if X2 wanted to go in and kill them, it would be a piece of cake. So, if I'm not mistaken, the only thing that can pose a threat to them should be a curse. It is an unknown ghost hidden in the thick fog. Linnea Yang inquisitively asked, "Are you saying that they are hostile to the thick fog outside?" Evan Zhao nodded, then took out the crucial piece of paper. The mayor of City A asked the research personnel to evacuate with the data. Once they leave the Stone Hill experimental base, they will find a way to help destroy everything here. Linnea Yang suddenly realized after reading it. I understand. The curse of this thick fog is their method. They want to use curses to erase all traces of experiments here. Evan Zhao's mouth curled into an excited smile. Correct answer. Those unidentified ghosts in the thick fog are the real hunters of this dungeon. It is also the real issue that needs to be addressed in our main quest and subquests. Seeing his eerie expression, Linnea Yang couldn't help but be horrified. Excited about a fog that is even harder to deal with? Not at all. Evan Zhao hee. The conflict has now been established. The mayor of City A wants to destroy everything related to the experimental base and Stonehill High School through curses, while the test subject X2 wants to preserve everything. He is clearly self-aware. This is a good thing for us. After all, the enemy of our enemy is our friend. If we can find a way to communicate with him properly, maybe we can obtain crucial information about the curses from him. It might even help us quickly complete quest. Linnea Yang fell silent for a moment. Then she reached out her little hand to check Evan Zhao's temperature. He doesn't have a fever. Why does he keep talking nonsense today? Evan Zhao simply pushed her hand away. It's too troublesome to explain to you. Just follow me in a moment. Then the two of them waited in the laboratory for a long time. Linnea Yang asked us boredly what we were waiting for. Evan Zhao replied that we were waiting for Fiend from the cafeteria to take a break. Since those things are created by humans, they are ultimately some kind of living organism. They will get tired for sure. When tired, they will go to sleep. Let's take the chance while they are resting to go inside that door and take a look. If I'm not mistaken, what's inside should be related to X2. How do we get in? There is a password. Just as Linnea Yang finished speaking, Evan Zhao with a scalpel removed the head of a staff member. Immediately after, he carried the head to the location of the password lock. Ding. Recognition in progress. Facial recognition successful. Following the sound, the door slowly opened. The two of them cautiously groped their way in. But the sight inside the door made their scalps tingle. Laid out in front of the two of them is a giant jar filled with green liquid. Inside the jar, there is a densely packed humanoid nervous system. At the top layer of the nerves, it is connected to a brain and a pair of eyes. What on earth is this? Linnea Yang couldn't help but shiver, while Evan Zhao's eyes were filled with admiration. This thing can truly be called a work of art. Throughout the whole body, only the most important blood vessels and nerves were retained. Its cell activity is maintained with nutrient solution, and the circulation is completed by external stimuli instead of the heart. This complete nerve disconnection surgery. Among the patients I used to know, only one person was able to complete it. The barrage instantly erupted upon hearing this. Is he not bragging? How could such a surgery be completed in real life? I graduated from medical school. I am very responsible in telling everyone that this surgery can indeed be completed in real life. It has not been tested on living people. At this level of nerve disconnection, anesthesia has completely lost its effect. The surgery is almost completed while the patient is awake. Linnea Yang cautiously approached the cultivation tank. Are you implying that he is still alive? Evan Zhao nodded in agreement. Because the cost of these nutrients and machines is extremely expensive. Those insane researchers. There is no need to spend so much effort on a dead person. After saying that, he walked over to the other side of the experimental bench. On top was a notebook. The first page of the notebook reads, High God said that focus is an essential quality for concentrating one's mind. Kindness is the seal that locks away power. Anger and fear are the keys that unlock it. This seems to be a quotation from certain theology and philosophy. At the moment when he was contemplating, a cry of surprise from Linnea Yang came in his ears. There was an electronic label on the jar. It says, X2 native Quin Chen with 96% adaptability and excellent mental cohesion. This name astonished Evan Zhao. It's interesting that Quin Chen was used to create X2. He pondered for a moment before turning around to search for the list of experimental participants. He did find several familiar names on it. Researcher Eva Zhang, Xiao Peng, Sheng Li, and Evan Zhao raised their eyebrows, and their brains worked quickly. Finally, everything became clear. Xiao Peng was not the mayor's son at all. Eva Zhang was also not the goddess of Class 8 in the first year. They are all experimental personnel disguised as students, helping to scout test subjects inside the school. These two people play different roles, deliberately approaching Quin Chen one after the other. Their goal is exactly as recorded in the notebook, to unravel Quin Chen's kindness and release the demon within him. In general, students with better grades tend to have higher levels of concentration. It is difficult for those who are indecisive to make achievements in their academics. This is the best school in the city. Its purpose is actually to select those experimental subjects with extremely high levels of concentration. No wonder the roster doesn't have the names of Eva Zhang and Xiao Peng. They are experimental personnel. They might have fled long before the curse happened. Evan Zhao just finished analyzing. Suddenly, a cold voice came from the ear. Your guess is basically correct. However, these two bastards did not run away. They also became sacrifices. Sheng Li, missing an arm, revealed a struggling expression. The MP5 in his hand was also aimed at the two people. You didn't expect that, did you? Despite all the difficulties and dangers, I still made it in. The game of you two bastards ends here. A man has been stripped of all his bones and flesh, leaving only the most important blood vessels and scattered nerve endings. But under the nourishing fluid and external stimuli, taking the place of the heart's function, the person inside still survives in this world. After witnessing this scene, Evan Zhao also unraveled a deception against the experimental subject Quin Chen. But just at this moment, Sheng Li, who was originally being chased by Fiend, suddenly appeared. He, who had lost an arm, aimed an MP5 at the two of them. Linnea Yang was so frightened that she immediately raised her small hand. Meanwhile, Evan Zhao walked around as if nothing had happened. Stop! Move again, and I'll shoot you dead. Sheng Li threatened hysterically with his eyes bloodshot. Evan Zhao's mouth curled into a smile. Shoot if you want. You would have shot already if you had bullets. I don't believe you can hold it in. Sheng Li didn't waste any words, and pulled the trigger directly after hearing that. With a bang, the bullet instantly hit Linnea Yang's left leg. She grunted and fell to the ground. Holding her leg, she stared at the other person with tears in her eyes. Why did you shoot me? It's not like I provoked you. Sheng Li hurriedly apologized in a panic. Then he aimed the gun at Evan Zhao again. But due to excessive blood loss, he was already experiencing double vision. With a bang, the trigger was pulled. Linnea Yang's leg burst open with a spray of blood again. The audience in the live stream burst into laughter when they saw the scene. This marksmanship seems to carry some personal grievances. Upon seeing this, Evan Zhao took off both of their clothes. Then he tore his sleeves into strips of cloth and helped Linnea Yang bandage herself up. Okay. You deceive us once, we deceive you once. Round it up, you now owe us a favor. Tell me, what can I help you with? Sheng Li is shaking all over with anger upon hearing Evan Zhao's shameless remarks. Who the hell do you think you are, trying to smooth things over with me? If it weren't for your usefulness, I would really want to send you a hail of bullets. He suppressed his anger and slowly said, Since you have already come here, it proves that you have understood the situation. Yes, we are responsible for the situation, including the curse on this school. If you want to leave, you must find a way to lift the curse. Shang Li said, as he approached the instrument next to the jar and started operating it. As long as X2's life pod is closed, the X2 riot will end in death. The remaining mutations pose little threat. The organization will soon send people to lift the curse and clean them all up. Evan Zhao stopped him. Stop deluding yourself. The organization won't come to rescue you. X2 lost power. Attack the ghosts in the mist outside. They will soon flood into the experimental base in large numbers. Do you think you can withstand the ghosts' attack? Upon hearing this, Shang Li's face darkened immensely. I participated in this experiment and possess valuable secret data that they do not have. The organization will not easily abandon me. Evan Zhao stared at him and retorted, if you were really important to them, they would have sent someone to rescue you long ago. And instead of letting you survive in this godforsaken place for so long, you expect your organization behind you to save you. It's better to trust us. At least for now. We are more or less on the same boat. Shang Li was instantly angered upon hearing this. He held the MP5 firmly against the other party's forehead. Dare to talk nonsense again, I will take you out directly. Evan Zhao's face showed no signs of panic. It must be very uncomfortable to be abandoned. You were loyal like a dog, but ended up like this in the end. When they needed you, they painted a rosy picture for you. But when they discarded you, it was like throwing away garbage. Don't be silly. It's just a matter of whether you want to live or not. Now only we can help you. Killing me is equivalent to killing yourself. Shang Li gritted his teeth and glared at him. The hand holding the gun was trembling. The audience in the live broadcast room, afraid that he might accidentally shoot Evan Zhao in the head. In the end, Shang Li slowly put down the gun. He slumped on the ground, looking utterly defeated. Then he took out a cigarette and lit it. He took a deep drag, holding it in his mouth. Do I look pathetic now? Linnea Yang held her injured leg, staring at him angrily. Do you have the nerve to say you are pathetic? What about those students you tortured and brainwashed? Are nerve endings like this pile of jars any less pathetic than you? Shang Li let out a bitter smile after hearing that. Do you think I want it to be like this? My daughter is in their hands. 7 years ago, my wife passed away from cancer. Before she left, she entrusted me. Be sure to take good care of our daughter. Speaking of this, tears kept falling uncontrollably. I am sorry to my wife. Now I am going to let down my daughter too. Linnea Yang heard this. Suddenly remembered the manuscript scene on the broken hand before. Are all your wives and children controlled by that organization? Shang Li nodded helplessly. Do you think we are unforgivable? In fact, we have no choice at all. If you were given the choice between saving your own family or a stranger to die, would you choose your family? Linnea Yang fell silent for a moment upon hearing the words. Indeed, if I put myself in the other person's shoes. She was afraid that she would make the same choice as him. After all, people are selfish. All right, let's talk about cooperation. You managed to infiltrate this school, so you're not ordinary people. If you are willing to help me out, I will tell you the way to lift the curse. Upon hearing his words, Evan Zhao smiled and asked in return, You're not asking us to help rescue your daughter, are you? Shang Li immediately shook his head and said, Relying on you guys? Don't even mention saving my daughter. Just like you guys. Once getting close to the organization, you will be discovered and dealt with in the quickest time. Of course, if you don't bring along this dumb woman, you should be able to live longer with your little cleverness. Linnea Yang immediately roared after hearing this. You are stupid. Your whole family is stupid. Evan Zhao stared straight ahead. He hesitated for a moment. Then what do you want us to help you with? Evan Zhao finally revealed the secrets of Ghost School. To escape from here, we must lift the curse of the haunted fog. But only Shang Li knows how to lift the curse. So he can only agree to the other party's conditions. Shang Li struggled to get up from the ground, then staggered to a corner of the room. He opened one of the cabinets and tore off the wallpaper that covered the compartment in between the cabinet. A metal safe appeared in front of the group. Shang-Li promptly inputted fingerprints and a password. After fumbling around for a while, he took out a bottle of strange reagent. After doing all this, he gasped and handed the reagent to Evan Zhao. Evan Zhao asked in confusion what it was. Shang-Li replied that it was a product of another project. The method is not yet mature, but the danger level of the potion is no less than X2. The organization will not let this go. It may take a few months or a few years. Even if this place becomes a complete ruin, they will definitely send someone to search for it. Once this kind of thing falls into the hands of the organization. Shang-Li shook his head at this, trying to keep himself alert. Because of excessive blood loss, his dizziness was getting worse. Regarding the curse, everything comes from a magic box. As long as you close that box, the curse will disappear. You go out through the secret passage where I came from. The box is right in the center of that mist. The malevolence in the mist will not attack anything that appears as if they are dead. If you can minimize your emotional fluctuations as much as possible, maybe you can get there. They are brainwave signals emitted by the emotional fluctuations of living organisms. They come to determine if they belong to one's attack targets. Remember, no matter what you see in that mist, do not be surprised or afraid. Once you show significant emotional fluctuations, nearby demons will smell the scent of flesh. Shang-Li mumbled the last sentence in a confused manner and then rested. Linnea Yang hurried to stop the bleeding when she saw the situation. Evan Zhao shook his head, indicating there was no need to waste effort. Long-term hunger has left his body extremely weak. During the recent escape, adrenaline once again exerted a secondary strain on his body. With so much blood loss now, unless there is a proper large hospital nearby that can give him a blood transfusion immediately, even Hua Tuo himself would not be able to save him. Linnea Yang stood on the side feeling very uneasy. Do you think his words are trustworthy? Evan Zhao pondered for a moment before replying. From a mental health professional's perspective, I believe he is telling the truth. But this is clearly not the way the system is left for us. There should be a simpler way to break the curse. Otherwise, even if someone knows this method, 90% of people will die on this path. Linnea Yang sighed helplessly as she leaned against the wall. So, do we have to go find another way to break the curse? Evan Zhao looked eagerly at the secret passage. Although shortcuts are not easy to take, they are definitely more direct and effective. Linnea Yang reminded. It's too dangerous. Even though your spirit points won't decrease in the thick fog, any emotional fluctuations will attract attacks from those ghosts. Evan Zhao's eyes lit up with strong interest. No problem. As a psychologist who has treated thousands of mental patients, I am confident in controlling my emotions. I will set off now. Linnea Yang chose not to follow. She was well aware that she couldn't sustain spirit points like the other person. Her going there would not only cause trouble for Evan Zhao, but also be seeking death. After all, being able to mix in the side quest to obtain an S rating was already extremely profitable. Now she only needs to stay in the laboratory. She can clear the level as long as she waits for Evan Zhao to complete the quest. After a long detour through secret passages, Evan Zhao finally sees an elevator appear in front of him. This secret passage is located deep underground and also operates by using a vertical lift elevator. But unlike the vertical shaft guarded by X2, this one requires member privileges, so the ghost outside cannot enter. Evan Zhao once again took out Heidi's head from the storage space. I didn't expect that even Heidi's mother wouldn't recognize the rotten head. It can still be identified successfully. The elevator continued to ascend slowly and reached the very top. A strong killing aura rushed out at the moment the door opened. A woman covered in blood was seen outside the door, with her back facing him. Warning: the red-clothed female ghost is extremely dangerous. A terrifying vengeful spirit cursed with a weakness that shields their senses from rules. They can only feed on emotions from living beings. However, when encountering cold-hearted individuals like you, they will see you only as a stone to attach to. Would you really consider inviting such a beautiful female ghost to come and play? The female ghost is gnawing on an arm. Evan Zhao recognized that the arm belongs to Shun Li, the one that he lost. No wonder Shun Li would rather take the risk of provoking X2 than use the secret passage here. There must be something extremely terrifying wandering around here. Evan Zhao then slowly walked out of the elevator. Then he very friendly stuck behind the female ghost. He didn't want to play the role of a ghost rider. There is no way. This woman just happened to block the way. Female ghost felt the heat behind her. She immediately turned her head. The terrifying and distorted face scared the audience in the live broadcast room, making them break out in a cold sweat. One person and one ghost faced each other for several seconds. With a snap, that sticky and foul tongue covered Evan Zhao's face. As long as Evan Zhao has the slightest emotional fluctuation, he will definitely be eaten on the spot. A few seconds later, seeing that the other party remained unmoved, the female ghost retracted her tongue. Evan Zhao then took out a handkerchief and wiped off the saliva from his face. Then he awkwardly but politely smiled. The man stared at the curvaceous female ghost with malicious intent. He, full of vigor, leaned closely behind her. And in response the female ghost then extended her foul-smelling tongue and licked his face. At this moment, the man stood still, not daring to show any emotions, because if the female ghost noticed, he would surely be eaten on the spot. After a moment of seeing no reaction from the other party, the female ghost retracted her tongue. While Evan Zhao wiped his face and revealed an awkward yet polite smile. Then he slowly left, noticing the bewildered expression on the other person's face. He sniffed and realized that the comments had become more and more unprofessional since the strange data update. He climbed up the stairs along the secret passage. Soon, he arrived at the storage room of the school gymnasium. There was no terrifying mist here, but there was an eerie nursery rhyme echoing in a clear voice. On August 8th, cutting hair. After cutting the hair, cutting mother. Mother sewn into a doll. Evan Zhao searched for the source of the sound. He discovered that the nursery rhyme was coming from a little girl's mouth. He walked straight to the front of the little girl. The people outside the live room became curious. What was she going to do? Was he going to walk directly over and kill the little girl with a knife? After coming to the little girl's side, Evan Zhao reached out and touched her head. Then he disgustingly shook his hand a bit, as it was a little oily. This ghost probably hasn't washed their hair for a few days. Excuse me, how do I get to the center of this mist? Upon hearing this, the little girl stopped singing. After a long silence, she numbly pointed in one direction. Evan Zhao left with a simple, "Thank you," and strode away from the place. And the little girl stood in place, lost in thought. She couldn't understand why the stone would speak. Evan Zhao understood everything through the probing just now. The rules deprived them of their six senses. They couldn't judge living beings by sound, taste, and light and shadow. Even if they are touched or attacked by people, they will not actively attack humans. Fear, panic, excitement, and so on. Only such emotional fluctuations can attract their attention. Thick fog pervades outside the gym. There are more and more ghosts inside. In the depths of the thick fog, there is a headless female ghost dancing ballet, a demon playing a piano made of human bones, a butcher dragging a giant bone-chopping knife, and a kukusekana with her mouth slit to her ears. They lurk within the haunted fog, constantly wandering back and forth. Evan Zhao just walked in the thick fog like this. Keep a safe distance from the spirit points. Show no emotional fluctuations on the face. The audience in the live broadcast room was nervous, afraid to even breathe heavily, fearing he might accidentally die. The further he went into the thick fog, the more fierce and terrifying ghosts Evan Zhao encountered. A zombie baby just cried once. Evan Zhao then started bleeding from all 7 orifices, almost dying. A pure black musk deer looked into Evan Zhao's eyes. One of his legs grew worms, and it began to decay continuously. A paper figure with a bright and colorful face. just because he breathed in Evan Zhao's direction. Ghost fire immediately appeared on Evan Zhao's body just because he took a breath, but even though he was burned beyond recognition, he remained completely emotionless throughout. He didn't even have a hint of pain on his face. The audience outside the live streaming room held their breath nervously. I don't know how long has passed. The fog ahead finally slowly dispersed. Two bodies twisted like pretzels appeared on the ground. Evan Zhao looked at them for a while. He guessed that these two people should be Eva Zhang and Xiao Peng, but it didn't matter who they were now. He squat down and pulled out the worm on his leg with force. Then he took out his own scalpel and poked the worm's belly. Black thin vines grew out of its body. The passive devourer worm, derived from the eldritch meme, struggled for a moment and lost HP. The vines on its body bloomed beautiful flowers, then gradually withered. Without this worm, Evan Zhao's legs will no longer continue to decay. After dressing his wound, he came to the golden box placed on the ground. The workmanship of this box looks very exquisite. Evan Zhao carefully approached and opened it. After opening it, a small golden ancient tower slowly rose from inside. The tower emitted a music as brilliant as the stars. Evan Zhao lost consciousness for a moment, but soon recovered. He grabbed the box and covered it in one swift motion. The magic patterns on the surface of the box emitted a black demonic aura, slowly gathering in midair. Gradually, it transformed into a gigantic and ferocious ghostly face. The ghostly face had demonic eyes burning with black flames, coldly staring down below. Countless terrifying ghosts converged around the man. He, however, was not afraid at all and walked straight through here. As long as his emotions fluctuate even slightly, countless ghosts will tear it into pieces. Luckily, it ended without incident. Evan Zhao finally arrived at the end of Haunted Fog. He opened the golden box on the ground. A large amount of fog gathered in midair all of a sudden. A struggling ghostly face slowly appeared in the fog. Then the ghostly face inhaled the haunted fog and everything unknown inside it. Ding! Congratulations to player Evan Zhao on completing the subquest. Breaking the Curse of Stonehill High School. Rewards will be settled after completing the main quest. Congratulations to player Evan Zhao for obtaining the hidden item. Evan Zhao breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing the prompt. At the same time, in the city of Philadelphia in Disorderly Realm, Vice President Tao Yang of the Horn-Blowing Alliance sat in his office, gazing out the window. After a moment, a knock on the door was heard. A man, with a strange smile on his face, walked in. Vice President, do you have anything to discuss with me? Tao Yang gestured for him to sit down and said, I want to talk to you about someone. With that, he handed over the information on Evan Zhao. When Ball saw the name Evan Zhao, his expression instantly turned serious. Did he come in too? Tao Yang nodded in response. Yes, Ball seemed reluctant to mention this person. But after a long silence, he still spoke up. Vice President, as you know, our family has a kind of disease. I prefer to call it a gift. The desire for slaughter flows in our blood. It has never changed for generations. It is because of this that my father, Capel, became an arms dealer. His gift is the most outstanding I have ever seen. Many wars have my father's shadow behind them. He has killed tens of thousands of people. He is known as the King of Arms. Since I was young, surpassing him has been my lifelong goal. However, everything changed after my father met Evan Zhao. His homicidal tendencies were cured. This is a shame for me. Killing is something engraved in our genes. How is it possible to be cured? I don't accept. That was the father who used to be the King of Arms and the warlord Black Hand. Suddenly one day, it turned into a kind old man who spends the whole day fishing and playing chess. After hearing this, Tao Yang said lightly, So you killed your father. How much do you know about his treatment of your father? Ball pondered seriously for a while. Their treatment was carried out in secret, and although they spent a long time together, but actually, the treatment time was very short. As for my father's homicidal tendencies, It was probably within a day, maybe within an hour. Because of the short time, I felt that my father was like a different person. Tao Yang continued to ask, "Have you never had any contact with him?" Bale's body was shaking slightly after hearing this. "We only had contact once. But I have a feeling of fear." Tao Yang was somewhat surprised to hear this. As a murderous fiend, he regarded himself as a madman who stood at the top of the food chain. He actually spoke out his own fear from his mouth. After Ball calmed down, he tightly clenched his fists. "Vice President, where is he?" Tao Yang replied, "He is currently on Slacker's Guild." Although this guild has few members and a terribly low level of development. However, halfway through speaking, he stopped. "All right, go rest. A month later, the wave of evil spirits will appear. You first suppress your own level. When the time comes, perform well inside. Perhaps you can make a fortune from the wave of evil spirits." Ball nodded and walked out the door. "I understand. If there's a chance, I will definitely wash away the shame of the family." At this time, inside Stonehill High School, Evan Zhao retraced his steps back through the secret passage. Linnea Yang breathed a sigh of relief at the sight. "You are back." "I thought you." Evan Zhao assured that he was fine. "Come back. Use these experimental instruments to cut off my decaying leg." Upon hearing this, Linnea Yang was instantly stunned on the spot. Cut off his own leg. The man casually picked up 2 steel saws. He wanted to cut off his own leg without anesthesia. Throughout the whole process, he never blinked once. This scene is really appetizing. The girl beside couldn't help but vomit. After doing all this, Evan Zhao showed a relaxed expression. "All right, now I can prepare to communicate with X2 with peace of mind." Linnea Yang is a bit puzzled. All the quests have ended. Why are you taking the risk to communicate with him? Evan Zhao smiled and started to answer. "There is an ancient saying called, 'Courtesy calls for reciprocity.' They have set such a curse on me. It would be very rude if I don't reciprocate with some gifts to them." Linnea Yang seemed to understand something from what was said. "Are you suggesting to deal with the organization behind them using X2? I don't think that's very likely. The other party is able to create such a terrifying curse. The power behind them must be astonishing. Can just a rebellious subject handle it?" A glimmer of light appeared in Evan Zhao's eyes. "Yes, that's why I need to go through his original form. Teach him something." "Do you want to teach X2? What to teach?" Evan Zhao smiled and replied, "Teach some very common knowledge." Time flew by quickly. 3 days later, just before the main quest ended, X2 actually returned to the laboratory. Linnea Yang was almost scared to the point of peeing by him. She quickly pulled out her little pistol. However, this subject completely ignored her. It went straight to Evan Zhao. Then it bowed respectfully. Linnea Yang was stunned. Damn, he really taught Dungeon Boss as a student. This, although unreasonable, did happen. The figures of the two gradually turned into white light and disappeared, while Times 2's mouth corner revealed the same smile as Evan Zhao. Meanwhile, outside Stonehill High School, arrived a large group of fully armed military officers. Preliminary investigation. The curse of Stonehill High School was prematurely lifted. Our instruments detected no living persons inside. The commander waved his hand at this. "Very well. Let Team A scout ahead. Report any situation encountered inside the laboratory immediately." A group of armed mobile personnel quickly began to explore the interior of Stonehill High School. However, they had no idea what awaited them, a terrifying presence. At this moment, Evan Zhao has already been transported back to the guild building. Congratulations to the player Evan Zhao for clearing the main quest of the Cursed School of Horror, living through 7 days in the school. Subquest: Remove the Curse of the School. Achieved SS rating and received item Sacrificial Doll, Pandora's Box, Imitation, and T202 in liquid form. They all revealed unconventional abnormalities. Although you took a shortcut to clear the game in the end, Your outstanding performance still earned you a very high score. Kudos to you, even though. Data deleted. Watch out for yourself. Rachel Liu leans against the door in thin pajamas. She lazily holds a glass of red wine. There are many people around in the square. I don't know what she is looking at. Congratulations on successfully completing Dungeon, Evan Zhao. Your younger brother's live broadcast has been watched by your older sister. Great performance. Evan Zhao modestly smiles after hearing that. Where? A simple dungeon like this can be done with just hands. Rachel Liu gave him a white look upon hearing that. The brat is showing off again. By the way, Sister Liu, what happened over there? Why are there so many people surrounding it? Rachel Liu took a sip of red wine and answered lightly. It's nothing. Someone died. You'll know more about it. It happens quite often. Evan Zhao then curiously walked over. He passed through the crowd, only to see a bizarre corpse lying on the ground. All 10 fingers of the person were cut off, twisted into a pretzel shape from head to toe, and stretched several meters long. This person clearly did not die a normal death. It was caused by some kind of eerie force. Evan Zhao squatted down and turned over his head. On the corpse's face, there was a creepy and bizarre smile. The Han curtain made everyone nearby feel creepy. Evan Zhao, however, developed a strong interest. He reached out and pinched many parts of corpse's body, only to find that he could not feel any bones at all. The murderer must have removed all his bones from the wound on his back, leaving no residue behind. The skillful technique suggests that the perpetrator is either a doctor or a butcher. However, judging from the way the knife marks open and close, it seems like a butcher. Evan Zhao observed carefully for a while, and then asked the girl next to him, "Can I use your soda?" The girl nodded in agreement. After taking it, he frowned. "It's not enough to just a soda. Bring me an egg, preferably cooked." After hearing this, a man volunteered and ran back to the room to get an egg. The onlookers became curious. What does he need the egg and carbonated drink for? Doesn't this have any special help with solving the case? The man was twisted into a shape like a spiral from head to toe. Not only was his entire body stretched for several meters, all the bones in his body have also been removed. This ingenious technique. The killer is either a doctor or a butcher. After Evan Zhao collected the eggs from the people around him, he looked very serious as he observed. Then, in front of everyone, he stuffed the egg into his mouth. He took a sip of carbonated drink and gulped down a few more mouthfuls. After drinking it, he contentedly patted his full belly. Then he turned around and strode away from here. Ate potatoes for several days in the dungeon. Boiled eggs are still tastier. The crowd witnessing this scene were all dumbfounded. They thought you were going to solve the case. Turns out, that son of a b*** was just here to scam free food and drinks. Evan Zhao went straight back to his room. After locking the door, he lay down on the bed. He opened his system panel. All the information and rewards were displayed. He looked at the list of attributes and felt strange. The system inquired about some things after my level increased. Why didn't my strength increase? The system explained that the player's level only affects the opening of different dungeons, and does not increase strength. Strength attribute. It includes the player's constitution, self-healing, combat endurance, speed, and many other aspects. If you want to improve your strength attribute, there are 3 ways. The first is to complete major world quests to earn talent points that can be added to your attributes. The second is to unlock the intermediate market. Exchange for bloodline, ghost limbs, extraordinary techniques, and so on. The third. You will receive some special rewards in the dungeon. For example, the T202 in your hand. Evan Zhao seemed somewhat enlightened after hearing that. What is field? Field belongs to the specialty type. It is used to enhance the upper limit of a player's specific aspect. Currently, the basic fields include mental field, field of firearms, elemental field, and robustness field. Field is divided into 8 levels. More advanced branches can only be upgraded when the field reaches level D. About the field specialization skeleton zone forum. Many posts have thorough analysis. I can't view the later field branch discussions. But generally speaking, the field of firearms is at the forefront of mechanical aspects. It is also the most suitable field for new players to choose after all. In the early stages, new players can hardly access mid-range stores. In the low-level stores, the most powerful weapons are mostly firearms. And the field of firearms can evolve into mechs in the end. It can be said that although it is not strong in the later stages, it is definitely not weak. Detecting that your spiritual power is very high. Do you want to choose the spiritual field? The spiritual field can evolve into telekinesis. The further you advance in this field, the more difficult the promotion becomes. But just like the physical strengthening field, once you reach S rank, the higher levels of strength will completely outpace other fields of the same level. A player can only choose one field. I believe with your spirit points, you will surely achieve great success in the mental field. Evan Zhao nodded in agreement after hearing that and said, "Well said. Since that's the case, I'll choose the field for physical fitness." In the eyes of the system, Evan Zhao is completely wasting his exceptional talent. It seems that ever since he chose Guild, he has been wasting the great opportunities in front of him. Evan Zhao successfully activated the strengthening field. This means he can continuously increase his strength attribute through training in battles. After activating the field, his own strength has also reached 18 points. He clenched his fists and clearly felt a burst of explosive power. He threw a punch fiercely into the air. One could even hear the faint sound of the air being split, while he was frantically beating the air. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door from outside. Evan Zhao cautiously opened the door, only to see a chubby figure dressed in plain clothes. He stood nervously at the door. "Hello, are you Big Brother Evan Zhao? I'm coming in to talk." The chubby boy introduced himself as White Fang after entering the house. He is a new player like him, and is now also at level 3. His purpose for coming this time is to ask Evan Zhao to help him with a major world quest, and he is willing to pay a certain amount of points as a reward. Evan Zhao squinted and asked, "How many points?" White Fan gritted his teeth and replied, 1,000 points per person. Evan Zhao looked surprised and asked, "Are there any other people?" White Fan explained cautiously, "It's like this. The big shots in our guild don't really take care of things. And the middle group of people are constantly thinking about changing jobs. So the cohesion among the new players at the bottom is very poor. Basically, everyone is on their own, forming cliques and factions against each other. More and more new players are entering. It's a chaotic group without a leader, in an environment without clear rules. I don't need to elaborate on what happens in such a situation. In order to survive better, I can only temporarily band together with a small group for warmth. Although it is not allowed to fight each other within the guild, it's just in name only. There are actually many ways to kill someone if one really wants to. Evan Zhao, Big Brother, we're coming to find you. On the one hand, we think it can enhance the strength of our team. On the other hand, we hope to complete the world quest together. After all, the rewards for world quest are very generous. The difficulty is also very high, and we don't want to let others have it." Evan Zhao opened the quest details to take a look. He was curious. Why had he finished a dungeon and returned, but the guild's world quest was still at the tutorial quest stage? There should be quite a few people eager to do it. White Fan tightened his fist and explained, "The difficulty level of our guild's tutorial quest is a bit outrageous. Currently, 6 groups have gone to complete the quest. There are 27 people in total. However, no one has survived. In this eerie world, one must fight to survive. You must play a game with the Clown Ghost and the Butcher Ghost in order to survive. Winning the game will unlock 2 new scenes. The Clown Ghost and the Butcher Ghost will then switch from neutral to allies of the guild faction. Will provide water and food needed for survival without any restrictions. And those who fail, the butcher ghost will strip the bones from their bodies to make soup. After hearing the introduction of White Fang, Evan Zhao suddenly became interested. So when that guy is doing the tutorial quest, if he loses the game, he will be left with just a piece of skin. Is a tutorial quest that difficult? White Fang nodded and answered yes. We checked the forum. Most of the tutorial quests in other guilds are quite simple, but the rewards are basically non-existent. Tutorial quests like the ones in our guild only reward 3 talent points. Very few points. Corresponding to the generous rewards, the difficulty is naturally extraordinary. Evan Zhao rubbed his chin. He said, "It feels very interesting. How many people do you have? When are you planning to set off?" White Fang saw that he agreed and quickly spoke up to answer. We currently have a small team of 5 people in total. In addition to you and me, there is also a cute little girl with a slightly abnormal mental state, Sugar Tion. One is the beautiful prostitute of the underground, Water Lucy, and the other is an honest and kind middle-aged man, Han Lu. As for the quest, they can set off at any time. It depends on when you are available. Evan Zhao stood up after listening and said, "Then let's inform them. Let's go check and assess the situation now." Shortly after, the group briefly introduced themselves to each other. They then left the guild headquarters and headed towards a winding mountain road. At the end of the road, in the thin mist, they could occasionally see a few figures. They were all players trying to complete a world quest. There was a young man squatting at the entrance, smoking. His eyes looked gloomy, and he was accompanied by several minions. White Fang took a step forward and inquired, "Pixiang, how is the situation inside?" The young man did not pay attention to him. Instead, he turned his head alertly and looked at Evan Zhao. Some of them have seen the exciting live clips of Evan Zhao and know that this guy is not only strong but also a bit crazy. Isn't this the top spot? What's going on? I also want a piece of the action. The little brothers next to me have all gathered around at this moment, daring to come and snatch Big Brother's reward. You're really brave, kid. Evan Zhao flashed a friendly smile upon hearing this. I know this reward is very generous. Everyone doesn't want to let it go to someone else. But have you all thought about it? This is just a tutorial quest. There are quests and rewards to come. If everyone gets stuck here, then no one will get the things that come after. Let's either get rich together or starve together. His words have caused subtle changes in the mindset of many people. Pixiang thought it made sense. So he nodded and agreed. If you want to go, I will give you an opportunity. Many people have already died in there. For your own good, I can give you some hints in advance about the clowns and the rules of the game. Clown game. You need at least 3 people to enter the game and play rock, paper, scissors with the clown. Each person takes turns guessing 10 times. Both sides will have their hands covered with a black cloth before making a move, so they cannot peek at each other's gestures. The person who guesses wrong will have to cut off 1 finger. Winning 3 out of 10 times within the game counts as a victory. If this person fails to win 3 times, they will be thrown into the cluttered room behind them by the clown. I'm not sure what terrifying things are inside, but people who enter never come out again. The player who lost the rock, paper, scissors with the clown before is killed. The player after that will then play rock, paper, scissors with the clown again and reset the entire game, starting the score anew. Additionally, we have also discovered that the clown's 3rd and 6th rounds of rock, paper, scissors are fixed and will always show scissors and paper. White Fang curiously asked if, following this pattern, his 9th or 10th rounds are also likely to be fixed in rock, paper, scissors. 3 wins are enough. Why haven't you completed this quest yet? Pixiang chuckled upon hearing this, looking at White Fang as if he were an idiot. So you are willing to risk your life to continue playing the fixed rock, paper, scissors game? Are you trying to be a scapegoat for others? White Fang fell silent after listening. Indeed, if the trial and error before has given people hope and made them eager to try, then the final trial and error might have no one willing to do it. People are selfish. Why should I get beaten while others enjoy the sweets? Evan Zhao smiled faintly and sighed that these are useless. Let's go in and take a look. Peek Xiang, upon hearing this, instructed his follower to make way. After a few people entered the station, a young man with a nose ring on the side asked in confusion, "Big brother, did you tell them wrong? I remember the clown's fixed moves in rock paper scissors are not scissors and cloth." Peek Xiang's eyes flashed a touch of ruthlessness. "You understand nothing. Who is Evan Zhao?" New player Bang Bang was in front of the guild building before. "Didn't you notice that Rachel Liu, that B*TCH, was looking at him wrong? As long as this kind of person is alive, do you think the managers of the guild will let us rise to power?" The young man next to him suddenly realized. "It's still the wise big brother. Let me light one for you." There was a hint of fear in the look towards Peek Xiang. This guy Peek Xiang is indeed a psychotic murderer. He's really sinister. But it's good that Evan Zhao is dead. One less person to compete with us for rewards and women. The rich women in the guild are strong and beautiful. If I can win over them in the future, wouldn't it lead to great success? People are trying to survive in this terrifying the bizarre world. People had no choice but to enter the territory of the clown ghost. The pungent smell of blood permeates the darkness. The ground is scattered with torn-off fingers. Water Lucy approached Evan Zhao and reminded him, "Boss Zhao, that guy earlier didn't look right. I think he might be lying." Evan Zhao replied that he was aware of it. Seeing that he was well aware, Water Lucy stopped speaking further. Several people walked towards the Crafty Ghost grocery store not far away. The clown with a funny makeup waved at them and asked, "Are you here to buy something or to play games?" Evan Zhao rested one hand on the counter and asked, "What are the benefits of playing games?" The clown ghost excitedly began to speak. "My dear guests, if you are willing to play a game of rock, paper, scissors with me and win 3 out of 10 rounds, I will forever provide you with all the goods in the grocery store for free and without limit." Evan Zhao nodded after hearing that. "And what if I lose?" The clown ghost revealed a sly smile. "If you lose, then you'll have to pay a small price. After all, if a game loses its stakes, it would be quite meaningless." Then he introduced the game rules to the group. Everyone found that it was the same as what Peek Xiang had described. The clown continued to add, "Additionally, I want to emphasize to everyone that you should not try to kill me or cut off my fingers during the game in an attempt to break the rules forcibly. Otherwise..." The clown paused here and pointed towards the utility room. There are countless pairs of terrifying eyes inside, all staring lifelessly at everyone. Several people were instantly terrified at the sight. But the girl named Sugar Tian remained indifferent. After winning the game, each participant can receive 3 talent points. Those who team up to enter the game, but do not get a chance to participate, will receive 1 talent point. If you all are ready to team up and play the game, please come sit at the round table inside the store. Our game is about to begin. Upon hearing this, Evan Zhao walked in confidently. The girl Sugar Tian followed without hesitation. The remaining 3, White Fang, hesitated a bit. This game is within the scope of the guild. If they lose, it means they will be completely dead and cannot be revived. But if Evan Zhao wins, they can gain a bit of talent for free. Points are very precious, especially in the early stages. Each point of strength brings visible improvement to a person. Go or not go? That's the question. Water Lucy gritted her teeth and ultimately chose to follow from behind. The mother is going to give it her all. A woman like me has to stand firm in this place. It's inevitable that there must be some investment. Moreover, 1,000 points have already been given. If I don't go, won't it be a loss? After White Fang and Han Lu exchanged a glance, they also made up their minds. Damn it, we're going all in. Whether we end up as the master or the grandson will be determined by this one time. When all 5 people entered, the clown grinned and said, "My dear guests, please take a seat. I'll turn on the TV first to liven things up for everyone." Speaking of which, he took out the remote control and turned on the surveillance. The players who participated in the game earlier are currently being shown on the screen. They met tragic deaths due to breaking the rules. The piercing screams coming from their mouths are chilling. The spirit points of the other 3 people are slowly decreasing, while Evan Zhao and Sugar Tian's spirit points remain unchanged. The clown ghost now extends an invitation. "Alright, who wants to play with me first?" Evan Zhao smiled slightly and raised his hand. "Mr. Clown, I'll play with you." A simple game of rock, paper, scissors. The participants were unexpectedly scared out of their wits. The losers won't just lose a finger. He will also be dragged to a dark room and tortured to death. "Who will play with me first?" Upon hearing the clown's words, Evan Zhao immediately raised his hand. Then the game begins. With a wave of the clown's arm, the people in the other seats are controlled to take a step back. Only Evan Zhao is left facing him, sitting across from each other at the round table. The next 3 minutes, you can discuss with each other to decide what hand signal to make in the end. After you have decided, you can put your hands into the black bag in front of you. Then the machine will simultaneously pull open the bags. Of course, I can assure you all, there are no surveillance devices in the bag. I wouldn't stoop to do such things. Evan Zhao nodded after listening. "I trust you." He then looked at White Fan next to him and asked, "What should I do?" White Fan was stunned for a few seconds and did not react. "Ask me?" Evan Zhao looked at him and smiled slightly. "Yes, I'm asking you." Requesting external support right at the beginning. This doesn't seem like Evan Zhao's style. Could it be that he has some special hidden meaning, like to confuse the opponent's perceptions? After hesitating for a moment, he stuttered and said, "If you lose, don't blame me." Evan Zhao nodded and replied, "Of course." White Fan then gritted his teeth and muttered, "Scissors." After hearing that, Evan Zhao reached into the dark cloth, indicating the clown to make his choice. The clown chuckled and also put his hand into the dark cloth. The mechanical arm above immediately descended and gently grasped the black cloth on their hands. Both sides have thrown punches. Now the answer will be revealed. As soon as the words fell, the mechanical arm suddenly lifted. Evan Zhao has scissors, while the clown has rock. "I'm sorry, sir. It seems your luck is a little off," the clown said. Then he pushed the paper cutter in front of the opponent. Evan Zhao saw this and did not say much. He directly extended the index finger of his left hand into the paper cutter. The next second, a flash of blood. That finger that had been with him for more than 20 years bid him farewell. The few people behind were terrified at this moment. But Evan Zhao's face showed no panic at all. He turned his head again and looked at White Fan with a smile, asking, "What should I play for my second move?" White Fan dared not speak anymore. He quickly waved his hand, indicating for Evan Zhao to make the decision himself. Evan Zhao nodded and smiled after hearing that. "I will go next and choose rock." The clown's eyes were filled with keen interest. This man seemed different from his previous prey. He gave me an unsettling feeling. I am curious. What kind of threat can he really pose to me? In the second round, Evan Zhao played rock, clown, cloth. Evan Zhao is willing to bet and lose. Once again, he cut off his own finger. The people behind were stunned on the spot when they saw this. From start to finish, Evan Zhao showed no emotional fluctuations. Obviously, he had no intention of winning in the first 2 rounds. Clueless. There was an extremely faint red light shimmering in his eyes. Clown. Trigger type neutral. When you play games with him, you will die if you lose, unless he cannot beat you. Weakness not obvious. Goal: to revitalize the family business. Known ability: has X-ray vision when eyes are open. That's the data for the clown. Evan Zhao understands. He always manages to predict others perfectly. And he cheats by relying on his own abilities. But to win the game, what you need to do is not to expose him. Instead, Evan Zhao needs to use this point to corner him. We are now in the 3rd round. According to Peek Seong's information, this time the Joker will definitely play scissors. But his information may not be reliable. If we can confirm what Peek Seong said is true this time, the winning probability will greatly increase. However, it could be dangerous if it's false. Evan Zhao didn't rush to play rock, paper, scissors. Instead, he stared at the clown across from him and asked, "Clown, someone told me when you arrived that you would play scissors in the third round. Is that true?" The clown chuckled after hearing this. "Well, I'm not supposed to tell you the rules of this game. But I really like you, so I can reveal a little bit to you. I will have fixed choices in the third and sixth rounds of rock, paper, scissors. But I can't tell you the specifics." Evan Zhao nodded in response, knowing this is enough. Then the two of them reached their arms into the black cloth again. Everyone held their breath and stared intently at the scene. Nervous, they could even hear their own heartbeat. The robotic arm slowly lowered and grabbed two pieces of black cloth. Suddenly, the black cloth was swiftly pulled up. The clown threw out pieces of cloth. Evan Zhao's is a pair of scissors. Finally one around. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief when they saw this. But the clown seemed very happy. He stuck his fingers into the cutter. "Congratulations, Evan Zhao. However, it seems that guy outside seems to have deceived you." A game of rock, paper, scissors with fingers as stakes begins. The man lost twice in a row, and also had 2 fingers cut off. Although he knew the clown ghost was cheating by using X-ray vision. But Evan Zhao cannot expose him because as long as he doesn't break the rules, once the game starts, it cannot be stopped. Fortunately, he won once in the third round thanks to the rules. The clown seemed very happy. He reached out and put his finger into the cutter. "Congratulations, Evan Zhao, but it looks like the person outside deceived you." Evan Zhao showed a sly smile after listening. "Yes, I will definitely retaliate and repay him." The clown looked at him with interest. "Are you so sure you can walk out of here alive?" Evan Zhao shook his head and asked back, "Then how can you be sure that you won't make it out alive?" "Mr. Clown, do you really enjoy gambling? How about we add a new twist to this game?" Upon hearing this, the clown hesitated for a moment. What new twist? Shall we talk about it later then?